Chapter 593. Little White went down. Luli was worried and expectant at the same time. Little White was miraculous. Inhibition formations were ineffective against it. Little White had been refined by thunderbolts for a long time, so its defense was strong. Would it be harmed by the cold current? Luli didn't know. Luli, on the other hand, did not rush in like an idiot. If he dared to go in and be frozen by the cold current, he would die immediately. They had to wait. Lu Ling frowned. She was worried about Little White's safety. This beast was miraculous and had so much room for growth. It would be such a shame if it died. The 2 hours this time was even more torturous for Luli than the last time. Little White and Luli were not master and servant, so Luli could not tell if Little White was alive or dead. Luli had to wait with anxiety. It had been 2 hours in Chuching. Luli and Little White still hadn't come up. Luli was getting more and more anxious. He flew around the abyss and his eyebrows were knitted together. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, there came a noise from below. Luli and the others checked with psychic power at once. When Luli saw Little White on God of Meng's shoulder, he was relieved. However, this time, God of Meng and Chuching came up alone. They didn't bring anyone with them. Moreover, the expressions of the two of them were a little off. Their expressions were a little ugly. Clatter, Luli and Lu Ling looked at each other. Both of them had a bad feeling. This time, neither of them was in a hurry to ask about the situation, as if they didn't want to receive bad news. Saint Lord! Chuching and God of Meng bowed and shouted as they came up. They were both Saint Lords. Little White hopped onto Luli's shoulder and shouted in a deep voice, which made Luli more worried. Phew, phew, Lu Ling took a deep breath to calm herself down and said, "What is it? Tell me." Chuching looked at God of Meng. Seeing that God of Meng didn't want to talk, Chuching made up his mind and said, "Young Master Li's beast is good. It cracked the inhibition formations easily. We went into the cave and we saw a grave." Grave. Lu Ling and Luli felt as if 2 thunderbolts had struck on a clear day. Both of them trembled. Lu Ling almost fell out of her bead of life. Fortunately, Hu Lang helped her up. Luli looked at Lu Ling with worry. He was not as close to his parents as Lu Ling was. After all, he had never seen his parents since he was a kid. Lu Ling was different. He flew over, grabbed her arm and said to Chuching, "Go on." Chuching shook the wrinkles on his face and continued, "There was a corpse in the grave. I checked it and found that it was a beautiful woman. He should have been dead for more than 10 years, but the temperature down there was very low, so his body was well preserved. There's a tombstone with the words, 'Beloved wife Di Yun's grave.'" Pooh! Finally, she could not hold back the blood anymore. She spat it out and collapsed. Di Yun was her mother's name. Clearly, the tombstone was built by Lu Renhuang. Lu Renhuang took his mother into the ice abyss, but he failed to save her. More than a decade later, their mother had passed away. "Sister," Lu Ling's eyes rolled up and she was about to pass out. Luli held her in his arms anxiously, took out a pellet and fed it to her. She had been worried about them for more than a decade, looking forward to them for more than a decade, talking about them for more than a decade. For Lu Ling, what happened to her parents was not only a concern but also a belief that supported her to this day. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to make it many years ago. Today, she was filled with joy and expectation. Finally, she and Luli had the ability to save her parent. She didn't expect to receive such a grievous news. How could she accept it? At the moment, above the ice abyss, Luli was worried that Lu Ling would lose her mind. He took her down to the barren land next to the ice abyss. Lu Ling closed her eyes. Her breaths were weak and her face was pale. The 4 human sovereign realm warriors of the Clouds Plains looked at her with worry. They were all Lu Ling's slaves. If Lu Ling died, they would all die with her. Mother is dead, Luli was upset as well. He didn't even have the chance to see his mother. How could she die like this? She had been dead for more than a decade, and they only found out now. Lu Ling rested in Lu Li's arms for the time for one incense stick to burn before she struggled to stand up. She dropped to her knees. Seeing that Lu Li was still in a daze, she scolded him coldly, "Lu Li, on your knees!" Lu Li knelt at once. The 4 human sovereign realm warriors of the Clouds Plains looked at each other and knelt down as well. God of Meng and Yi Cha thought about it and knelt down as well. After all, Saint Lord had knelt down. As subordinates, how could they remain standing? "Mother, I, Lu Ling, and my brother, Lu Li, are here to kowtow to you," Lu Ling said with tears in her eyes. Then, she kowtowed to the ground. Lu Li, the human sovereign realm warriors and Yi Cha followed suit. Lu Ling kowtowed to the ground for 9 times. She even made a dent in the ice. After that, Lu Ling still didn't stand up. She just knelt there. Lu Li didn't stand up either. The other human sovereign realm warriors were too embarrassed to do so. God of Meng and Yi Cha were embarrassed. They were all patriarchs and they had lived for a long time. Even if Lu Ling and Lu Li's mother were still alive, she would only be in her 30s. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Lu Ling stood up. Lu Li asked the others to stand up as well. Lu Ling looked at Chu Qing, wiped her tears and asked, "Where is my father?" "Nobody." Chu Qing shook his head and said, "There is only one tunnel and an underground plaza. There are signs of people living in there and there are some mystical grasses. But there is no living being in there." "Impossible." Lu Li and Lu Ling's eyes were wide open. They couldn't believe it. How could there be nobody in there? Lu Renhuang was still alive. How could he not be in the ice abyss? Could it be that Lu Renhuang had come out a long time ago? But Lu Li and Lu Ling had been living at the northern desert for the past 15 years. How could Lu Renhuang not go to them? Could it be that Lu Renhuang was dead? That jade talisman of life was given to Lu Ling by Lu Renhuang himself. It was still intact. Lu Ling asked, "Are you sure there is nobody in there? Are you sure you have searched everywhere?" God of Ming said, "Yes, we have. There is nobody in there. But one thing is for sure. Someone was in there a while ago. There are some seeds of edible fruits and some signs of living. I estimate that the people inside have been gone for no more than a month." "A month?" Lu Li and Lu Ling frowned. Lu Renhuang was in the ice abyss a month ago? Lu Li was not at the northern desert. He happened to be at the Clouds Plains. "Let's go back." Lu Li's eyes glowed. It was possible that Lu Renhuang had gone to the Ling Empress City. Lu Feishue was at the Ling Empress City. How could Lu Renhuang not ask around after he left? Lu Ling would go to the Ling Empress City to wait for Lu Li's return. Lu Ling thought about it and said, "Lu Li, let's go to the Ling Empress City. Chu Qing, you wait outside." Their mother had passed away more than a decade ago. There was no point in grieving. They had to find their father first. At least, they could find out the details and meet Lu Renhuang. That was the only consolation. Zi Huanqiao. Chapter 594. Under Zi Huanqiao's arrangement, Lu Li and Lu Ling's identities were kept secret. Zi Huanqiao told all the warriors in the plaza nearby to leave. All the powerful warriors in the city were warned not to use psychic power. Anyone that dared to use psychic power would be treated as a spy and killed. Lu Li and Lu Ling were in a hurry to get to the Ling Empress City, so they had to leave by teleportation formation. Zi Huanqiao teleported to the Heaven Martial City first. After everything was arranged, he teleported back to let Lu Li and Lu Ling go over. They teleported to the Heaven Martial City. The plaza was empty, not a soul in sight. No psychic power came either. Zi Huanqiao was a capable man. Then, Zi Huanqiao teleported to the Ling Empress City and asked Madame Yen to make arrangements there. After an hour, Zi Huanqiao arrived. Lu Li and Lu Ling teleported to the Ling Empress City. The plaza at the Ling Empress City was empty as well. But this time, some psychic power came. There were scouts of enemy forces in the Ling Empress City. Whoosh, whoosh, Mingyu and Yu Huashan flew out with two patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race as soon as they sensed something. Madame Yen had given the order to kill anyone that dared to use psychic power. Those must be scouts of the Central Plains. They must be killed. Lu Li and Lu Ling didn't worry about this. Mingyu would take care of it. He brought Lu Ling into the Imperial Palace where Madame Yen was waiting with Bai Lung and the others. "Greetings, Emperor." "This is," Madame Yen bowed and looked at Lu Ling with curiosity. She was so pretty that even Madame Yen was jealous of her. Lu Ling was more beautiful than Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang. She was one of the best. "I will tell you later." Lu Li was in no mood to explain. He waved his hand and took Lu Ling directly to Lu Feishue's palace. Yi Cha and Madame Yen clearly didn't know about Lu Renhuang, which meant that he didn't disturb anyone even if he came out. But Lu Li believed that he would go to Lu Feishue. Lu Li and Lu Ling hurried into Lu Feishue's palace. Lu Feishue was drinking tea in the hall. Seeing Lu Li coming in with a girl, she was delighted and said, "Lu Li, you are back? Well, where did you find such a pretty girl?" Creak. Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other. Their hearts were weighed down again. Lu Li waved his hand to let Madame Yen and the others leave. He looked at Lu Feishue and asked, "Aunt, have you seen my father?" "Your father?" Lu Feishue frowned and asked, "Why do you ask? Did your father come out?" "Sister," Lu Li turned to Lu Ling. He was confused. According to Chu Cheng and the others, Lu Renhuang should have come out. But since he had come out, how could he not scout for information? How could he not look for them? How could he not come to see Lu Feishue? Lu Ling's eyes flickered. She could not figure it out even with her intelligence, but she reacted quickly. She dropped to her knees, kowtowed to Lu Feishue 3 times and said, "I am Lu Ling, nice to meet you." "Niece? Lu Ling?" Lu Feishue was taken aback. She looked at Lu Ling and her eyes reddened. She helped Lu Ling up and said, "My dear niece, get up, get up. Lu Li, you got your sister back. That's great, that's great." Lu Li had told Lu Feishue everything about Lu Ling. Over the years, Lu Feishue had been thinking about Lu Ling. She was worried about her niece. Today they finally met. How could she not be moved? Lu Feishue choked with sobs. Lu Ling looked at Lu Feishue with a smile. Lu Li had told Lu Ling about Lu Feishue's aunt. Lu Ling loved her as well. After all, she was her father's only sister. Lu Feishue kept asking Lu Ling questions. Lu Li was thinking about Lu Renhuang with a frown. According to Chu Cheng and the others, Lu Li's father should have come out when Lu Li went to the Clouds Plains. 1 month ago, there were signs of people living in the abyss. Lu Renhuang must have been living there for more than a decade. Lu Renhuang would not die if he was alive for more than a decade. Logically speaking, a man who had been trapped here for more than a decade would try to find out information as soon as he came out. The northern desert was Lu Li's territory. Legends about Lu Li were everywhere. Anyone could know about him. Lu Renhuang could defeat human sovereign realm warriors more than a decade ago. Even without any breakthrough in his realm, it was a piece of cake for him to get information. Logically speaking, Lu Renhuang would come to the Ling Empress city, and he would find Lu Feishue easily. He could not see anyone, but how could he not see his own sister? That was the problem. Lu Feishue had never seen Lu Renhuang. Lu Feishue and Lu Ling talked for a while before Lu Ling remembered about Lu Renhuang. Lu Ling explained. Lu Feishue frowned. After a while, she remembered something and said, "Half a month ago, I was in closed-door cultivation. I felt a strong psychic power was secretly checking me. At first, I didn't notice it. Later, I was alarmed. But the psychic power disappeared soon. I even asked Bai Yen and Mingyu about it. They said they didn't receive any information. There were no strange, powerful warriors at the northern desert. Is it my brother?" "I think so." Lu Feishue thought about it and said, "That psychic power is so strong. It must be at the human sovereign realm at least. A human sovereign realm warrior wouldn't have been checking me for so long for no reason. After all, I am not important at the northern desert. Bai Yen, Mingyu and Yu Huashan didn't feel it. But Lu Li and Lu Ling were confused. If the mysterious powerful warrior was Lu Renhuang, why didn't he meet with Lu Feixue? Why didn't he go to Lu Li and Lu Ling? He could have left a note. Auntie. Thinking of the note, Lu Li asked Lu Feixue in a hurry, "Have you checked the hall? Did he leave any notes or anything like that?" No, Lu Feixue blinked and said, "The maids clean the hall every day. I didn't see any note." Lu Li was still worried. He used psychic power to check the hall again and again. After a while, his eyes glowed. He flew out and stood in front of the hall. Lu Ling used psychic power to check. Her body trembled as well. She flew out as well. Lu Feixue walked out with confusion. She followed Lu Li's gaze and looked at the gate of the hall. Lu Feixue's eyes reddened after one look. Tears ran down her cheeks. She murmured, "Brother, you are so kind. Why didn't you see me?" On the gate of the hall there were two small words. Clearly, the two words were carved there with a weapon. The words flowed like water, bold and forceful. It was, "Human Sovereign Realm." The two words were small and not deeply carved. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't notice it. Lu Renhuang had come out. Chapter 595. One was bad news and the other was good news. Lu Li, Lu Ling and Lu Feixue all felt sad, especially since Lu Ling had deep feelings for her mother. In her memory, her mother was beautiful, gentle and loving. Lu Ling had been missing her for more than a decade. She didn't expect that things would end like this. Of course, Lu Ling had prepared herself for this. After all, her mother was already weak and could die at any time. All these years, she had been hoping that Lu Renhuang could save her mother. Lu Ling didn't feel well at all. She stayed in her room by herself, neither eating nor talking. She was in a half-awake state all day long. She had been living a hard life over the years. She had been under great pressure. She had been scheming against others all the time, and she had been on guard against being schemed against. Now that she had unsealed her memory and returned to the northern desert to receive this news, she felt terrible. She had always been a strong-willed person. She was almost raped at the Delong tribe. She stayed in the mountains for several days and crawled back home. She didn't shed a tear. She didn't say anything to Lu Li. She suffered in silence. Therefore, she locked herself in her room. She didn't want others to see her weak side, to see her in pain. Lu Li didn't know how to feel either. If Lu Renhuang could show up, maybe everyone would feel better. But Lu Renhuang was nowhere to be found. His mother had passed away. Lu Li, who was full of hope, was disappointed. He had a hunch that Lu Renhuang must have his reasons for not showing up. Maybe he had gone back to the Central Plains to visit Lu Xingyang. Or maybe he had gone to find his enemies to avenge his mother. That being said, as long as Lu Renhuang came out, they would meet again. Lu Li forced himself to pull himself together. Lu Ling seemed to be ill. Lu Feixue was in a bad mood. He had to support the family. Over the years, he had gotten used to being strong and shouldering the burden for others. When he went to Madame Yen, he didn't explain Lu Ling's identity. He just told her not to leak the news that he was at the northern desert. Also, he asked Mingyu to mobilize a secret team to search for spies and capture any suspicious ones. Lu Li didn't say anything about Lu Renhuang. Since Lu Renhuang didn't show up, Lu Li wouldn't be so silly as to tell the world that Lu Renhuang had come out. He sent a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race to the deserted world to find God of Meng and the others. He told God of Meng to take Hu Lang and the other four to hide in the Snow Mountain of Dragons and to keep the news to himself. He also asked Yi Cha to send people to block the entrances and exits of the deserted world. Without his order, no one was allowed to enter or leave. Lu Li himself didn't leave the Ling Empress city. He didn't even leave the imperial palace. By the looks of it, Lu Ling was ill. She was in a coma, half awake and half asleep. Sometimes, when she fell asleep, she would wake up from nightmares. Lu Li stayed with Lu Ling day and night to take care of her. Lu Feishue would come to visit often. Lu Li and Lu Feishue felt sorry for Lu Ling when they saw her pale face. Lu Ling finally recovered after 10 days of rest. She was still pale, but she had adjusted her emotions. Lu Li, don't send anyone to find father. He will come back to us after he finishes his business. The news about father must be sealed. No one is allowed to spread it. Lu Ling said. Lu Li nodded. He was of the same mind. He was relieved that Lu Ling brought it up on her own. He knew that she had recovered a bit from her grief. Lu Ling stood in a daze for a while and said, "Let's go to my grandpa's grave in a couple of days." "Okay." Lu Li nodded. He thought about it and explained, "My grandpa's grave and great-uncle Five's grave are at the Thousand Island Lake." Back then, Lu Li told her what happened. At first, Lu Ling was filled with killing intent. But when she learned that the Bu family patriarch and warriors that dug up her grandpa's grave were all killed, she felt better. Such a shame. Lu Ling sighed and said, "Mother's grave is at the bottom of the abyss. We are too weak. We can't even go to her grave and kowtow." "Sis," Lu Li said, "don't worry. As long as we work hard, we will be able to go down there sooner or later." Lu Ling closed her eyes in exhaustion. Lu Li stood up and said, "Sis, rest for a couple of days. I will take you to the Thousand Island Lake later." 5 days later, Lu Li and Lu Ling quietly arrived at the Dragon Elephant Mountain at the Blood-Evil Island of the Thousand Island Lake. The remains of his grandpa, great-uncle Five, and many others were buried here. Squeak, squeak, Little White returned to the old haunt and ran away by itself happily. Lu Li and Lu Ling knelt down with respect. Lu Yi followed behind them and knelt down as well. The nearby lands were all given to the Lu family. The Dragon Elephant Mountain had always been guarded by warriors of the Lu family. In order not to alarm the warriors, Lu Li had to send someone to secretly inform Lu Yi to make arrangements. Lu Yi's realm was not high. She was only at the initial stage of the Fate Wheel realm. She had to spend a lot of mystical materials to get there. She even failed to make a Fate Wheel once. With Lu Li as their backer, the Lu family was enjoying a comfortable life. Not only did they get the Goddown Island, but they also controlled several fourth-rank islands nearby. All of these were given to Lu Yi by Madame Yen. Of course, it was for Lu Li's sake. Lu Yi had met Lu Ling before. But now, she felt she was a stranger. Not only was Lu Ling's leg healed, but she had also reached the Noble Lord realm. She was emitting a superior aura which made Lu Yi afraid to look at her directly. After the ceremony, Lu Ling looked back at Lu Yi. She was still a virgin. She turned back to Lu Li but said nothing. Back then, Lu Yi wanted to pursue Lu Li. Lu Ling even joked that Lu Yi could be Lu Li's concubine but not his wife. "Sis, I used to live here for a while. Do you want to stay here for a few days to relax?" Lu Li pointed to the palace in the distance. Lu Yi had people guarding the palace and it was cleaned often. Sometimes, she would stay here for a few days herself. It was clean. Sure, there were too many people at the Ling Empress city. It was not convenient to walk around. She followed Lu Li back to the castle at the peak of the mountain. Lu Yi came early to make arrangements. She asked the escorts to leave, leaving only 2 maids and a cook. There were some chess pieces in the pavilion outside the castle. Lu Li took a look and realized they were left by him. He smiled to Lu Ling and said, "Sis, let's play a game of chess. I have made some progress. I wonder if I can beat you." Ha ha, for the first time in days, Lu Ling laughed. She shook her head and said, "Let's do it the same way. I will let you have 13 moves." The two of them walked into the pavilion, and Lu Yi personally served tea to them. Then, she watched the two of them play chess. The game lasted for an hour. In the end, Lu Li gave up and said, "I don't want to play with you anymore. I am asking for trouble, PFF." Lu Yi smiled. She was about to ask if dinner was ready when someone came from the distance. Lu Li frowned. He looked over and saw it was Yi Cha. He asked, "What happened? Why did you come here in person?" Yi Cha stood in front of Lu Li, cupped his fists and said, "A few days ago, a volcano erupted at the southeast of the deserted world. There were some monsters. God of Meng went to kill them and found a tunnel. He went in and found a small world inside. It is vast and boundless. We don't know how big it is yet. There are many monsters in there, different from Xian beasts." Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other and stood up. Lu Li waved to Little White in the distance and said, "Little White, come back. Let's go and have a look. P.S. Give me some recommendation votes. Many people said that the explosion on the 29th was a lie. I can tell you for sure that it is true. Starting from 20 chapters. Chapter 596. The deserted world was large, so there would be more passageways. There used to be 3. One connected to the central plains was destroyed under Lu Li's order. Now there was another one. If it was connected to the central plains or other plains, Lu Li wouldn't care. He could just have someone destroy it. However, it was connected to another small world, and a very big one with many monsters at that. Lu Li was very interested. Why? Because those small worlds often represented precious treasures. Who wouldn't want cultivation resources? With resources, many powerful warriors could be trained, forces could be strengthened, and one's realm could be improved quickly. Lu Renhuang had gone to run some errands. He would not return to the northern desert anytime soon. Their mother had passed away. Given their current realm, they could not go down to the ice abyss. Lu Ling had met Lu Feishue. It was pointless for her to stay here. She wanted to go to the deserted world, and then go back to the Clouds Plains. The Clouds Plains had just been unified. Lu Ling could not give it up. She had to stay there and take command. Teleportation formations had been built along the way. If Lu Ling wanted to go to the northern desert, she could arrive in half a day. Therefore, it didn't matter whether she wanted to stay at the northern desert or the Clouds Plains. Led by Yi Cha, Lu Ling and Lu Ling flew toward the area of demons. They were at the Thousand Island Lake. They could arrive in half a day at their speed. There was no need to take teleportation formations. After all, their return to the northern desert was confidential. They flew for half a day. With Yi Cha leading the way, they didn't run into any warriors. They entered the small world of green dwarfs, and then the deserted world. Lu Li didn't stop at the deserted world. He teleported to the snow mountain of dragons first to check on Bai Qiuxue. Then, he asked Lu Ling to take Chu Qing, Hu Lang and the other 3 human sovereign realm warriors away. Yi Cha said the monsters in the small world were powerful. It would be safer to bring 4 human sovereign realm warriors. On the off chance that there were powerful monsters in the small world, Chu Qing and the other 3 could help. As far as Lu Li was concerned, the small world was his now. Once he found it, he must conquer it. It would be a waste not to take the mystical materials. On the off chance that there was a passageway connecting the small world to the central plains, it would be occupied by the big families of the central plains as soon as it was discovered. The entrance to the small world was at the southeast, where there was no teleportation formation. They had to teleport to the Shadowland City at the southeast and fly for 4 hours to reach the entrance. A group of people appeared in the teleportation formation of the Heavenly Illusion City. Kuelvi, the chief of the Heavenly Illusion tribe, and Kumang, who had returned to the tribe, had already received the news and were waiting outside the teleportation formation. When Lu Li came out, he saw that Kuelvi looked awful. He asked in surprise, "What happened? Let's talk as we walk." Seeing that Lu Li had brought so many human sovereign realm warriors with him, Kuelvi was relieved. He flew out of the city with Lu Li and the others with Kumang following him. After they were out of the city, Kuelvi explained, Lord God of Meng has mobilized all the patriarchs of the Titan race. But half a day ago, they sent back a message saying that they have suffered a great loss. One patriarch died and many others are injured. The beasts in that small world are extremely ferocious. Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other in surprise. The Titan race was strong in defense, and all their patriarchs were at the noble lord realm. Average beast kings would not be able to hurt them. Could it be that there were many beast kings in that small world? Lu Li and the others sped up. After flying for 4 hours, they finally arrived at a huge mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there were Shadowland race warriors who bowed to them from the distance. Lu Li and the others flew on and soon, they found a volcano in the middle of the mountain. The volcano was huge, and it would erupt once every half a year. Therefore, nobody had ever thought about going in. If it were not for the fact that some beasts were spat out, nobody would have bothered. In the mountain outside the volcano, some temporary caves were dug out. Menghua and the others were in there. Menghua was so badly injured that he couldn't even stand up. "Where is God of Meng?" Lu Li asked as soon as he entered the cave. He saw 5 or 6 patriarchs in there, and all of them were injured. One patriarch even had a broken arm. Menghua couldn't stand up. Another patriarch sat up and said, "Clan leader is still in there with several other patriarchs to fend off the beasts. This time we made too much noise when we went in. We have attracted many beasts. Clan leader is afraid that the beasts will enter the deserted world through the tunnel, so he has to hold them off. Find someone to lead the way. We will go in and have a look." Lu Li didn't want to waste any more time when he heard that God of Meng was still in there. A patriarch who was less injured stood up and led the way. They rushed into the crater in the distance. "Let's go." Lu Li looked at Lu Ling and the others flew away as well. The volcano had stopped erupting for a long time, but it was still scorching hot. They went down the crater into the magma pond. "Right here." The patriarch of the Titan race pointed to a huge black hole on the wall of the magma pond and said, "We can reach that small world from here. Go back to tend to your wounds. We will take a look. Also, find someone to dig out the volcano and divert the magma away so that it will be easier to get in and out. Also, send someone to build a teleportation formation," Lu Li said. Chu Qing and the others had already rushed in. Lu Li and Lu Ling followed them and rushed into the tunnel. After a white glare, they arrived at a strange time. It felt like a world of fire. As soon as they entered, they felt a surge of heat. Everywhere they could see were maroon rocks. In the distance, they could faintly see some magma-like rivers. There were many trees, but they were all maroon and the leaves were the same color. "It is a magma river." Lu Li used psychic power to check. He noticed that the air above the rivers was curled up and there were flames coming out from some places. Lu Li was taken aback. Because there were lives in the rivers. They were brown swordfish. Fish that could survive in such hot magma. Were they still fish? Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li's attention was soon attracted by the noises of fighting in the distance. He looked up and saw a valley in the distance. The noises were coming from there. Whoosh! Lu Ling waved her hand. Chu Qing, Hu Lang and the other 3 warriors rushed over. Lu Li and Lu Ling didn't dare to linger around, and they went after them quickly. The valley was high and barren. But on one side of the valley, there was a river of magma, emitting a scorching heat. Lu Li and Lu Ling were sweating. "God of Meng, come back!" Lu Li used psychic power to check. God of Meng and the other patriarchs were fighting against strange beasts in the valley. Lu Li saw that apart from God of Meng, the other 3 patriarchs were injured. He shouted at once. "Retreat!" Hearing Lu Li's shout, God of Meng was relieved. He stepped back with the 3 patriarchs while Chu Qing, Hu Lang and the other patriarchs moved forward. Lu Li saw a patriarch's abdomen was pierced through and there were wounds all over his chest and back. It was a ghastly sight. Lu Li checked the valley with psychic power and saw many dead bodies on the ground. Touching his nose he asked, "How come it is so serious? Are there thousands of them? Thousands? Chapter 597. So many. Luli used psychic power to check. Those beasts were at least as strong as noble Lord Realm warriors. It was not normal for there to be so many of them. More than 10,000, and they are nearby. God of Meng looked up at the dark red sky and said, I can't go further than that. I think this world is very large. You can feel the Xian Qi in heaven and earth here. It is twice as rich as that of the Central Plains. I don't think this is a small world, but a super one. Luli and Lu Ling closed their eyes to check. Then they were surprised. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth here was twice as rich as that of the Central Plains. According to common sense, this place was twice as big as the Central Province. Usually, the larger the land, the richer the Xian Qi would be. At the northern desert, the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was thin. The Clouds Plains was much richer than the northern desert, and the Central Plains was even richer. Of course, this was not absolute. The small world where the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race lived was much smaller than the northern desert, but the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was still richer. Luli and Lu Ling would rather believe that this small world was larger than the Central Plains. They would rather believe that there was something special about the Xian Qi in heaven and earth. After all, the Central Plains was too large. If this small world was multiple times larger than the Central Plains, then it would be another Heaven Reverse universe, not a small world. Has anyone ever found a small world as large as the Heaven Reverse universe? Luli asked God of Meng with concern. If so, Luli would have to consider destroying the passageway. The larger the world was, the more powerful beings could be nurtured here. If there were beings of the Earth Immortal realm in this world, and there were many of them, then it would pose a huge threat to the Heaven Reverse universe. Once the powerful beings in this world noticed that beings of the Heaven Reverse universe were invading, they would track the passageway. By then, they would be able to invade the Heaven Reverse universe from the passageway, which would be a catastrophe for the Heaven Reverse universe. Not really, God of Meng thought about it and said, there are many small worlds at the Central Plains. Almost every family controls one or even more than a dozen small worlds. I think the largest one is only the size of the Clouds Plains. Okay. Luli was a bit relieved. If the small world was only the size of the Clouds Plains, then the creatures in this small world would not be too strong. Human Emperor and the others could still hold on. If they had the chance, they could retreat and destroy the passage. Lu Ling thought about it and said, let's be careful. I will take care of Luli. You go out and do something. Luli knew what she was talking about. He checked the valley for a while. Seeing that Chu Cheng and the other human sovereign realm warriors had gone over and easily suppressed the monsters, and they had even forced the monsters to retreat towards the canyon, they felt a lot more relaxed. Sister, be careful, Luli said and went back to the deserted world through the tunnel behind him. Outside the volcano, Luli noticed that Ku Lv and Kumang had left and were building illusions at the entrance of the cave. Luli nodded and said, Ku Lv, you build the illusions here. Let Kumang go in and build one as well. If he set up an illusion in the canyon, not only would it help Chu Cheng and the others resist the monster's attacks, but it could also hide the tunnel to the greatest extent. Kumang obeyed and entered that strange world through the tunnel. Luli asked Ku Lv to send a message to gather powerful warriors of different races after he was done. Warriors were needed to prepare for the invasion of the small world, the defense, and the backup plan. Luli himself was guarding the entrance at all times. If something went wrong, he would destroy the tunnel as soon as Lu Ling and the others came out to stop the strange world from invading the deserted world. The Shadowland race was nearby. Ku Lv sent someone to send a message. In a couple of hours, many warriors of the Eternal Realm and the Noble Lord Realm came. The Shadowland race was not strong enough. They had too few Noble Lord Realm warriors but more than 100 of the Eternal Realm. Dig up the volcano, Luli flew out and ordered the Shadowland race. At the same time, he asked Qlv to build a super-large illusion nearby. Even if the powerful creatures in there were to come out, they could be trapped for a short time. More than 100 Eternal Realm warriors were digging at the volcano. The walls of the volcano were soaked in hot lava all year round, so they were very hard. Luli even lent his divine weapon of Dragon King to a patriarch of the Shadowland race to speed up the digging. No matter how hard the walls were, they could not stand the continuous digging of a group of powerful warriors. Soon, the wall on one side of the volcano was dug out. A ditch was dug down to divert the lava away so that the temperature near the entrance was not as high. More powerful warriors of different races were teleported to the Shadowland city. Seeing that Qlv was almost done with the illusion, Luli went in with Chikur, Mengji, Yi Hu and a dozen others. Luli didn't bring any Eternal Realm warriors in. Not even the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Titan race could survive. Eternal Realm warriors would only be courting death. As soon as they entered this small world, everyone's expressions changed. This place felt like a world of fire. Everything they saw was dark red, and there were rivers of lava everywhere. The air was so hot that it was stifling. Even the monsters that were fighting in the canyon were fiery red. This is the inferno of the 18 levels of hell, Yi Hu exclaimed. There was a legend at the northern desert that the hell was divided into 18 levels. One of them was the inferno, which was horrifying, just like this place. Well, the inferno is a good name. Luli nodded and walked toward the valley in the distance. Lu Ling and the others were there. They could see Kumang building the illusion from the distance. Kumang had been here for a long time and he was still building the illusion. It was not hard to imagine how powerful this illusion would be. Last time at Mount Mist, Kumang finished in an hour. Lu Ling and God of Meng stood at the entrance of the valley. The 3 patriarchs of the Titan race were still tending to their wounds. The battle was still going on in the valley. Chu Cheng and the other 3 were having an easy time dealing with the monsters. What are those? They don't look like Xian beasts. Chikur looked at the monsters at the end of the valley and asked in surprise. Powerful warriors of other races were surprised as well. Those monsters were not large in size. They looked like leopards with only one vertical eye. Their bodies didn't seem to be made of skin and muscles, but more like red rocks. When the monsters were killed by Chu Cheng and the others, they would be smashed into pieces of reddish-brown rock. No blood would come out. But what was strange was that the monsters were alive and had souls. Judging from their appearance, the monsters were made of rocks, but they were not separated into pieces. They were a whole. The monsters were like a ball of moving flames. They were agile and fast. There was a spike on their heads. Their attacks mainly relied on their sharp claws and the spike on their head. The spikes were glistening, hard and sharp. Are the rocks sentient? Chapter 598. Heaven Grade and Holy Grade Xian Artifact. Everyone's eyes glowed. Yi Hu flew over and came back with some bone spurs. He took out a Heaven Grade Xian artifact and hacked at the bone spurs. Clank, clank, with a muffled sound, Yi Hu's weapon was bounced off and sparks came out from the bone spur. They looked at the bone spur but didn't see any mark on it. It was so hard that they were speechless. Let me try. Luli took out his divine weapon of Dragon King and hacked at a bone spur on the ground. With a muffled sound, the divine weapon of Dragon King was bounced off. They looked at the bone spur with even more excitement. The divine weapon of Dragon King, a holy grade Xian artifact, merely had a small dent on the bone spur. This is good. Luli couldn't help but exclaim. The bone spur was hard and sharp. Just a handle could be used as a Heaven Grade Xian artifact, not to mention forging it. If they could forge it and hire some master craftsmen and some good materials, they might be able to make a batch of Holy Grade Xian artifacts. Heaven Grade Xian artifacts were valuable. Average warriors of the Eternal Realm were not qualified to wear them. Holy Grade Xian artifacts were even rarer. Usually, small families or races didn't even have a family patriarch, unless they were disciples of major families. If they could conquer this small world, they would make a fortune with the bone spurs. The Pavilion of Delicacy wouldn't trade with Lu Li. Lu Ling could trade with the Serenity Plains and the Frigid Plains if she had the Clouds Plains. It was so convenient to go to the Central Plains from the Clouds Plains. Could the Samsara Palace block off the Clouds Plains? Could the Samsara Palace stop all the major families of the Central Plains from doing business with Lu Li and Lu Ling? As long as there were good things and profits to be made, many families would do business with Lu Li and Lu Ling secretly, even at the risk of offending the Samsara Palace. Lu Ling waved her hand and said, "Don't get too excited yet. We don't have a full grasp of the situation in this small world. Let's talk about it later." Whoosh, a shadow dashed out from the valley. Yi Cha appeared next to Lu Li. Lu Li asked, "How is it going?" "There are 5,000 or 6,000 fire leopard. It will take us at least a day to kill them all. There are no more fire leopards coming from the valley." Yi Cha explained the situation. Lu Ling nodded. The valley was filled with monsters. The fact that Yi Cha could make his way out proved that the Cyan Phoenix race was the best scout in the world. Lu Li and Lu Ling could put their minds at ease after one more day. As long as there were no more fire leopards to reinforce them, everyone would temporarily guard the entrance. As for what would happen next, they would have to wait until the fire leopards were completely eliminated. Fire leopard? Lu Li agreed with this title. He used psychic power to check the fire leopards in the valley. They were quite strong in defense. If it were not for human sovereign realm warriors, it would be much more difficult for average noble lord realm warriors to kill him. "I'll go help." God of Meng rested for a while to recover. He dashed into the valley. Chi-Ker and the others thought about it and followed them. They were all from special races in the deserted world and had their own ways. If they could use their powers to help the human sovereign realm cultivators speed up the purge, it would not be a bad idea. Lu Li wanted to go in and fight as well. He wanted to further cultivate the soul-shattering skill. However, the canyon was not very spacious. If he went in, those human sovereign realm cultivators would have their hands and feet tied. So, he simply did not go in. The group waited outside the canyon, and after 6 hours, Kumang finally stopped, his face filled with exhaustion. He released some Xian energy. The ground outside the valley suddenly glowed and the view changed. "Good, impressive." Lu Ling glanced over. A glint of surprise rose in her eyes. Everyone turned around to take a look, and a look of shock appeared on their faces. Lu Li glanced over and gave him a thumbs up. "Amazing!" Outside the valley was a vast flat land. But now, the view had changed into a horrifying abyss. Looking from this side, the abyss was endless. It was gloomy and glaring red. What was more surprising was, when they looked into the abyss, they felt a sense of fatal danger. It was not difficult to build an illusion. But the illusion made it so that they could not feel any inhibition formations. They just felt that there was a huge abyss here. That was what was impressive about it. Of course, the most important thing was the sense of fatal danger. The illusion could affect warriors' souls, which was horrifying. Kumang was young, but he had surpassed Ku Lv in art of illusion. He deserved his reputation as the genius of the Shadowland race that only appeared once in 10,000 years. God of Meng, send some fire leopards over. Lu Li signaled them to leave the valley to see if the illusion could scare the fire leopards. If it could, then the illusion would be significant. It could also test if the fire leopards had high intelligence. The group of people retreated to the other side of the illusion. From this side, their line of sight was not affected, and they could easily see everything in the canyon. This illusion only targeted the monsters that rushed out of the canyon. God of Meng and the others let 1 or 2 fire leopards come over on purpose. God of Meng even kicked one away and it fell to the edge of the abyss. Whoosh, that fire leopard was frightened. It stood up, threw a look at the abyss, and then went back the way it came. The other 2 fire leopards did the same. They turned around and ran toward God of Meng when they saw the abyss. Good! Lu Li and the others could see clearly the fear in the fire leopard's eyes. They were more satisfied with Kumang's illusion. This time, even if there were more fire leopards coming from the other side of the valley, they would be frightened by the illusion. At least, the passageway in and out of this world would be safe. When all the fire leopards are killed, Kumang, please go to the entrance of the valley and build an illusion like this. Lu Li told Kumang that as long as there was an inhibition formation on the other side of the valley, this place could be their base camp. With this base camp, they could slowly expand to this world and eventually occupy this world. The world was large and there must be a lot of treasures. That was an endless supply of resources. How many powerful warriors could they train? Also, this place could be another way out. The deserted world was connected to this place. In 10 years, even if they couldn't defeat the 4 forces, they could retreat to the deserted world and destroy the passageway. With the small world and the mystical materials from the deserted world, they could live comfortably here. After some thoughts, Kumang shook his head and said, "This illusion is not suitable to be built on the other side of the valley. How about this? I will go back and get some materials. I will work with my grandpa to build an ancient formation. If we can build it, not even a human sovereign realm warrior can see through it. We will be much safer here." "Okay." Lu Li nodded and said, "Go and get ready. Let me know if you need anything and I will go find it for you. I will give you credit for building this formation." "Thank you, Saint Lord." Chapter 599. After a day, all the fire leopards were killed. Chu Qing and the others were exhausted. From start to finish, they had killed at least 10,000 flame leopard. Although the flame leopards could not hurt them at their level, it was still very tiring to continue fighting for such a long time. Kumang and Kuelvi came in with patriarchs of the Shadowland race. The formation must be troublesome to build. Lu Li asked someone to clean up the scene and collect all the bone spurs. Those were natural heaven-grade Xian artifacts, and they could be made into holy-grade Xian artifact. Before the formation was finished, Lu Li did not send Yi Cha to scout for fear that more fire leopards would be attracted. He only asked Yi Cha and Yi Hu to scout nearby in case any beasts would affect Kuelvi and Kumang. At the same time, he asked God of Meng to guard nearby. The Shadowland race was not strong. Lu Li would be heartbroken if 1 or 2 of them were killed. Lu Ling didn't want to go back to the Clouds Plains for now. She would send someone to the deserted world to inform her if something happened. She was interested in this small world. Lu Li's business was her business. Now that Lu Li was in need of help, she would not sit by and do nothing. The construction of the formation was time-consuming. After all, it must be the most powerful formation of illusion of the Shadowland race, since it was related to the word immortal. Kuelvi, Kumang and a group of patriarchs had been working for 2 days, but they hadn't finished yet. Lu Li didn't waste time. He asked people to build teleportation formations, as well as a large amount of food and water. He planned to build a castle to prepare for a long campaign. As soon as they entered the small world, they encountered such a large group of fire leopards. Each of the fire leopards was as powerful as a noble Lord Realm warrior. How many beasts were there in the small world? How many powerful ones were there? Lu Li could not imagine. He must be prepared and take his time to conquer the small world. On the 4th day, the formation was finally finished. Lu Li and the others walked out of the valley and sensed it. They were all shocked. Standing outside the valley, they could not see a valley. It had turned into a creepy cave. Similar to the formation of illusion at Mount Mist, they could not find the entrance to the valley. They felt they were walking around in the cave. Furthermore, there was a sense of fatal danger coming from all directions, causing one's hair to stand on end and heart to pound. After walking 1 round, he even walked out of the cave automatically. Not bad. God of Meng came out as well. He looked around and exclaimed, "I cannot see through this inhibition formation. If I didn't know there was a valley here, I wouldn't have been able to walk out." Chu Ching and the others followed him out. Hu Lang and Chu Ching could not see through them either. Only the leader of the Heavenly Lotus cult could vaguely sense them. But if he hadn't known that this was a canyon, he definitely wouldn't have been able to enter it. Clan leader Ku, if we can conquer this small world this time, your Heavenly Illusion tribe will get the most credit. Guided by Kumang, Lu Li and the others returned to the valley. Lu Li raised his thumb and exclaimed. Ku smiled at Kumang and said proudly, "No one in my clan has comprehended this ancient god formation. Only Kumang can set it up. My clan still has 9 divine matrices, and it all depends on whether this kid can comprehend them or not. The later divine matrices are more powerful than the previous ones. Moreover, there are 3 divine matrices that are not only illusory matrices but also killing matrices. The most powerful illusory matrices can kill a human sovereign." Amazing! The ancient races all had their own divine powers. There was a reason why the Heavenly Illusion tribe could survive until now. None of the ancient races could be underestimated. For example, the enchantment of the Hag race could enchant all living beings. They were freakishly powerful. With such a formation as a barrier, everyone felt more at ease. At the very least, when enemies came, they could retreat to the deserted world and destroy the passageway. Clan Leader Yi, Patriarch 3, I will leave the rest to you. Be careful. Come back if something goes wrong. Lu Li turned to Yi Cha and the others. In order to conquer this small world, they must have a clear understanding of the situation. If there were powerful beings in the small world, then they could make plans to leave as soon as possible. Yi Cha went with 2 patriarchs. The 3 of them understood the difficulty of this mission. Yi Cha nodded and said, "Saint Lord, don't worry. We will be careful." Yi Cha and the others left the valley. They had to wait. She sat in her temporary tent to cultivate. She told Hu Lang to go back to the Clouds Plains to see if there was anything out of the ordinary there. The teleportation formation was being built outside. It would be connected to the entrance of the passageway to the Serenity Plains. It would take Hu Lang less than half a day to go back to the Clouds Plains. Lu Li went into a tent to cultivate, but he could not calm down. For one thing, he was worried about Yi Cha and the others. They would be in danger if they ran into beings of the human sovereign realm. For another, he was wondering if there were Bodhi fruits in this world. Time moved on. In just 3 days, Patriarch 4 of the Cyan Phoenix race came back with a piece of news. The surrounding area was the territory of the fire leopard. They had only traveled for 3 million miles, and they had encountered nearly 1 million fire leopard. Patriarch 4's speed and realm were not as good. Yi Cha told him to come back and report first and didn't take him further. Nearly 1 million? Meng Ji and Chiker's eyes glowed. Nearly 1 million fire leopards meant nearly 1 million heaven-grade Xian artifact. At the Central Plains, they could fetch a sky-high price of Xian crystals. How many mystical materials could they buy? How many powerful warriors could they train? Lu Li and Lu Ling, on the other hand, were worried. There were so many fire leopards. Yi Cha and the others had explored for thousands of miles, and it was all the territory of the fire leopards. How large was this small world? Unimaginable! Another 5 days passed, and the 3rd Elder Yi who returned with an even more shocking piece of news. They had left the territory of the fire leopards and encountered another kind of powerful beast. The comprehensive abilities of those beasts were no weaker than warriors of the noble lord realm. Yi Cha also sensed that the king of the beasts might be at the human sovereign realm. There are beast kings. Lu Li and Lu Ling's minds were weighed down. Beast kings were nothing. They could take their time to clear them out. It would be best if there were no Earth Immortal Realm beasts, or else they would have to give up on this small world. Lu Li and Lu Ling couldn't do anything before they had a clear picture of the situation. They had to wait for Yi Cha's return. 8 days later, Yicha finally came back. His face was solemn. When he came back, he went to Lu Li and Lu Ling's tent and secretly reported what he had found. Yicha didn't even know how far he had traveled in more than a dozen days. It should be as far as half of the Clouds Plains. However, Yicha still felt that there was no end to such a vast territory. He had only detected 5 types of beasts in this territory. There were more than 1 million of each type of beast, and there were beast emperors among the beasts. Lu Ling thought about it for a while and asked, "Did you find any signs of human life?" Yicha shook his head and said, "Not yet. I found many treasures that have been around for more than 100,000 years. If there were humans here, they would have picked them all." Okay. Lu Ling and Lu Li looked at each other and made up their minds. "I will mobilize powerful warriors from the Clouds Plains, and Lu Li, you do the same from the northern desert. Get all the noble Lord Realm warriors here. No matter what, we must dig into this mountain of treasures." Sure, they could not give up on so many treasures. In order to get all the mystical materials, they must clear out the beasts nearby. It would be inefficient to rely on a few human sovereign realm warriors. All the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Clouds Plains and the northern desert must be mobilized. Chapter 600. There were not many noble Lord Realm warriors at the northern desert. Including the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race, there were only a dozen. But over the past 2 years, Lu Li had bought many rare mystical materials and many had made breakthroughs. For example, Bai Lung, a few imperishable realm experts of the Z family and U family had broken through. There was also the deserted world. The deserted world had always been short of mystical materials. After Lu Li went to the Central Plains to buy some mystical materials, the number of warriors reaching the Noble Lord Realm had been increasing. Lu Li counted at least 50 Noble Lord Realm warriors. Of course, it was not enough. Compared to the Clouds Plains, the Drifting Cloud Hall had at least hundreds of Noble Lord Realm warriors. But there was nothing to be done about it. The northern desert was a rural area where mystical materials were scarce. It was hard for a warrior to reach the Noble Lord Realm. God of Meng and the others were worried. The Clouds Plains was so powerful. If 1 or 2,000 Noble Lord Realm warriors came, wouldn't the Clouds Plains get the lion's share of the mystical materials? Lu Li was not worried about this. He didn't even think about it. For him, Lu Ling was everything. He could give her everything he had, not to mention the resources in the small world. He could give her everything he had as long as she said the word. Lu Li asked Yicha to go back and deliver his order. Apart from Lu Feixue and Yu Huashan, all the Noble Lord Realm warriors were to be mobilized. 1 or 2 Noble Lord Realm warriors were needed outside. Also, Lu Li didn't trust Yu Huashan, so he didn't let him in. With Yu Huashan, Lu Feixue and Madame Yen out there, the northern desert would be safe. The powerful warriors of the big families of the Central Plains did not dare to enter the northern desert openly. They would only send some scouts. The most powerful ones should be at the Eternal Realm. Yu Huashan and Madame Yen could deal with them. Besides, the northern desert didn't have too many secrets. As long as the deserted world was not exposed, the Central Plains scouts could find out everything else. Lu Li asked Yu Huashan to guard the entrance to the deserted world. As long as there were no scouts in the deserted world, it didn't matter if there were scouts from the Central Plains everywhere. As soon as the order was given, all the warriors of the northern desert started to move. Zi Huanxiao and Bai Ling were excited. In the past, the deserted world was a forbidden land for them. Finally, Lu Li was willing to let them in? Lu Ling asked Hu Lang to go back and gather the Noble Lord Realm warriors of the Clouds Plains. Of course, they did not mobilize all of them, as that would attract the attention of the major forces in the Liang and Yuzhou provinces. Even if he mobilized half of them, there would be at least 1,000 of them. The teleportation formation was built quickly. By the time the Noble Lord Realm warriors from the Clouds Plains arrived, The teleportation formation at the crater had been completed. So many noble Lord Realm warriors? How many human sovereigns are there? When Zi Huanxiao, Bai Lung, and Ling Mingyu came in, many people were shocked. They were the top figures in the northern desert. They did not expect to be at the bottom in front of the experts from the cloud state of the deserted world. Let's go into the inferno. Lu Li and Lu Ling were in the small world they named Inferno. Yi Cha and God of Meng were in charge of the outside world. They sent warriors into the inferno. Zi Huanxiao, Zi Huaning, Bai Lung, Mingyu and the others entered the inferno from the tunnel. Tents had already been set up in the inferno. There was a god formation at the entrance of the canyon. The valley inside the canyon could be used as a base camp. If they had nothing to do, they could cultivate, rest, and heal here. Emperor! When the noble Lord Realm warriors of the northern desert saw Lu Li, they knelt down at once. Lu Li waved his hand to tell them not to stand on ceremony. He didn't explain too much. He just told them to go back to their tents and rest until all the warriors arrived. Almost all the noble Lord Realm warriors of the northern desert and the deserted world had arrived. Half of the warriors from the Clouds Plains were here and more were still being teleported. Half of the warriors from the Clouds Plains were here. More than 1,000 noble Lord Realm warriors from the Clouds Plains had come. The number of warriors from the northern desert and the deserted world was not enough. Many noble Lord Realm warriors of the Clouds Plains were puzzled. Why were they mobilized here? But Hu Lang, Chu Qing, and Lu Ling were here. Who dared to say anything? Lu Li looked at Lu Ling, who walked out. Looking at the crowd, she said, "This place is called the Inferno. It is a small world. The purpose of gathering you here is to conquer this small world. There are many mystical materials and treasures here. Of course, there are horrifying beasts. It is dangerous here. Maybe in a year, more than half of you will die here. What I can promise you is, as long as you can survive, your abilities will improve by leaps and bounds. Also, the mystical materials you will get will be enough for you to live in luxury for several lifetimes. Now I will make some announcements. You must obey orders and do not kill each other. You must report your grievances to us and we will deal with them. Anyone who dares to resort to violence or murder a comrade will be killed on the spot." With that said, Lu Ling looked to Hu Lang and shouted, "General Hu Lang." Hu Lang stepped out, glanced around and said, "Saintess's words are our words. The four of us will stay here and kill anyone who dares to mess around." The group of people saw the murderous look of the four human sovereign realm cultivators and did not even dare to breathe loudly. Lu Ling could not say that she was the master of the Clouds Plains in front of the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Clouds Plains. She needed the human sovereign realm warriors to intimidate them. God of Meng was in charge of the deserted world, and nobody from the northern desert dared to disobey Lu Li. Of course, there were not many people in the deserted world and the northern desert. None of the powerful warriors of the Clouds Plains would come looking for trouble. They were afraid that the powerful warriors of the Clouds Plains would bully them. Lu Ling's resourcefulness and tactics were outstanding. Lu Li asked her to command the army. Lu Li wanted to go out himself to improve his abilities. This time, the main warriors were from the Clouds Plains. It was not convenient for him to mobilize them. Warriors from the Clouds Plains were confused and hostile when they saw God of Meng and Chikur. After all, they were from ancient races. Humans and ancient races were mortal enemies. Why were they fighting together? With the human sovereign realm warriors here, nobody dared to say anything or show any hostility. Lu Li divided the army into 10 teams. Warriors from the deserted world and the northern desert were each in their own team. In order to avoid conflict with the Clouds Plains, they didn't use any tactics at first. They just had to clear out the fire leopards that were closest to the base camp. "Get out of the valley," Lu Ling ordered. More than 1,000 warriors went to the valley, while Yi Cha went to lure some fire leopards over. The army was not familiar with the fire leopards yet. Lu Ling planned to let the human sovereign realm warriors fight with a small group of fire leopards for a while. In this way, the army wouldn't be caught unprepared and suffer casualties. Soon, hundreds of fire leopards were lured over by Yi Cha. Yi Cha slowed down and sped up at the entrance of the valley. The formation at the entrance of the valley was miraculous. Looking from the side of the valley, there was no illusion. Therefore, when the warriors saw the fire leopards coming and sensed the violence from them, they held their weapons tight, ready to fight at any time. Nobody dared to make a move without Lu Ling's order. They were not worried since there were several human sovereign realm warriors in front of them. What happened next shocked countless people. After the group of fire leopards rushed to the entrance of the canyon, they all circled around it. Their vertical eyes were filled with fear. The fire leopards were only about 300 feet away from the warriors, but they didn't seem to see them. They just circled around the entrance of the valley. Hu Lang, Chu Qing, God of Meng, Lian Yi Hei and I go. Chapter 601. Bang Bang Bang. The 5 human sovereign realm warriors activated their force field. It was easy for them to fight. Force fields could suppress many fire leopard. Then, they would take out their weapons and kill the fire leopards one by one. Close force fields. Lu Ling said when there were only about 100 fire leopards left. Using force fields to suppress the fire leopards could hide their ferociousness. She asked them to stay and watch so that they could have a clear understanding of the fire leopard's abilities. After all, noble Lord Realm warriors did not have force field. The 5 human emperors closed their gravitational fields, and the fire leopards suddenly became ferocious. One by one, the fire leopards flashed and moved around the 5 human emperors like phantoms. They were too fast, and the spikes on their heads were too sharp. They slid across the arm of Hei and I, the palace lord of the Black Moon Palace, and easily cut through his arm guard. There was another horrifying thing about the fire leopard. They could breathe out some red air current from their mouth. The air current was not poisonous or hot. Instead, it had a strange power that could restrain warriors and slow them down. Lu Ling saw the confusion and explained, "The most horrifying thing about the fire leopards is the air current they can breathe out. It seems that the air current can draw upon the force in heaven and earth to suppress the enemies. When you fight the fire leopards, you must be careful of the air current. If you are enveloped by the air current, you will not even be able to move." The more than 1,000 warriors were astonished. The beast could draw upon the force in heaven and earth. That was so strange and horrifying. Many people had not learned a profound meaning. How could the beast know how to draw upon the force in heaven and earth? Lu Ling continued after a pause, "You can learn while you fight. I have been sensing this place these days. It seems that it is easier to draw upon the force in heaven and earth. In other words, the laws of heaven and earth here are clearer and more distinct. I hope that you can learn a profound meaning during this period of time." What? Many noble Lord Realm warriors' eyes glowed as they discussed. If they could learn a profound meaning here, they would feel they had made a fortune even if they didn't have to share their mystical materials. "Okay, 10 teams, go out and find some fire leopards to practice." Lu Ling saw that there were only 40 or 50 fire leopards left. She waved her hand and the warriors rushed out of the valley. When all of them were out, she said, "You must cooperate with each other in the fight. Survival comes first. There are many healers and elixirs in the base camp. As long as you are still alive, you can be cured." Kill. Hearing Lu Ling's words, they were all excited. What was there to be afraid of with such good logistical support? The group of people's murderous aura surged as they transformed into 10 sharp arrows and shot towards the fire leopard. Lu Li didn't follow her. He looked at Lu Ling and asked with curiosity, "Sister, are the laws of heaven and earth clearer here?" "Okay," she did not lie. Looking into the sky, she said, "I am of miraculous birth. I am more sensitive to laws and profound meanings in heaven and earth. I think it's clearer here than in the cloud plains and the northern desert desolate world. In other words, it's easier to comprehend profound meaning here. Profound meanings were the direct embodiment of the natural laws. There were all sorts of laws of heaven and earth in this world, such as raging winds, raging waves, and divine lightning. These were all direct manifestations of the laws of heaven and earth. If one could comprehend the profound meaning of these laws of heaven and earth, then one could borrow the power of heaven and earth to form powerful attacks and divine abilities. If it was really easier to comprehend the profound mysteries in this inferno prison, then it would be an unparalleled land of treasures. The strength of the cultivators who entered the inferno prison would soar. Of course, all of this was Lu Ling's speculation. She would need time to prove it. Even so, Lu Li was excited. In 10 years, the four forces would invade the northern desert. The Clouds Plains would not be spared. His original plan was to retreat to the deserted world if he could not defeat the four forces and cut off contact with the Heaven Reverse universe forever. This was the last path of retreat and also the worst one. After all, the Heaven Reverse universe was a world of many colors and the deserted world was just a well. They were trapped in the well and covered up, unable to leave for the rest of their lives. For all of them, this was a grievance and sorrow. If, in the past 10 years, they could make great progress in their abilities in the Inferno, even if they could not wipe out the four forces, it would be a miracle if they could survive the attacks from the four forces. In the future, when the number of powerful warriors at the northern desert and the Clouds Plains grew, there was still a chance for them to take control of the central plains. Bang, 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 the battle on the other side had already begun. Lu Li glanced over and felt slightly relieved. Groups of powerful warriors were flying in the sky. It was not difficult for them to kill a small number of fire leopards. Warriors from the Clouds Plains knew how to cooperate. They used all kinds of methods and injured the fire leopards one after another. Lu Li looked to the teams from the northern desert and was satisfied as well. The Titan race and the Mammoth race were fighting off the fire leopards while the others worked together to help. 2 fire leopards were killed easily. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, the 40 to 50 fire leopards were all killed by the 10 teams. Only one of them was injured by a fire leopard, but it was not serious. Yi Cha. Lu Li waved his hand and asked Yi Cha to lure more fire leopards over. It was better for Lu Li not to lure too many fire leopards over. He wanted the teams to get used to each other first. In this way, when the fire leopards came in on a large scale, they wouldn't lose their composure and suffer heavy casualties. Soon, Yi Cha lured over 200 to 300 fire leopards. God of Meng and the others dashed into the fire leopards to attract the main firepower. The other teams of the noble Lord Realm went to hunt down the fire leopard. Lu Li observed for a while. The situation was stable. The teams were in the right state and they were cooperating better. It was easy for them to kill the fire leopard. Last time when God of Meng came with patriarchs of the Titan race, many of them were injured and one of them even died. It was because they were not prepared and they were not familiar with the fire leopard. They lost their composure and suffered heavy losses. Technically speaking, the fire leopards were not horrifying. It was just that the air they breathed out was strange. If they were prepared and cooperated well, they wouldn't be killed immediately and they could run away. Saint Lord Kumang came over with several patriarchs of the Shadowland race. He reported, "Our race can build some illusions. Our people can see through the illusions as long as we tell them the secret. But not the fire leopards. They are not intelligent, so I don't think they can see through the illusions. The illusions will be more effective in killing the fire leopards and the casualty rate will be reduced as well." Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other. Both were delighted. They had thought that the Shadowland race was only good at defense. They didn't know that they could assist in attacks. "Okay." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Kumang, go ahead and do what you need. Tell my sister if you need any mystical materials or help. You will be rewarded according to your contributions." Thank you, Saint Lord. Kumang left with the others after he expressed his gratitude. Luli looked at Lu Ling and said, Sister, I will leave this to you. I will go and kill the fire leopards and cultivate a secret skill. Go ahead. Lu Ling nodded and said with a smile, Don't force yourself. Be careful. Whoosh. Chapter 602. Luli had never been a fan of management and commanding. In the old days, Lu Yi would be in charge of the Blood Evil Island and Madame Yen would be in charge of the Empire of Godly Prowess. Luli didn't want to get involved in the Inferno either. After all, there were so many powerful warriors and most of them were from the Clouds Plains. Lu Ling was a born commander and a talented one. Luli would not overstep his bounds and meddle in these matters. Luli preferred battles. The fire leopards were good opponents for him to cultivate the soul-shattering skill. He would not miss this chance. Buzzing, he had cloned himself and there were dozens of Luli. Many people looked over in surprise. Apart from the human sovereign realm warriors, none of the noble lord realm warriors could see through Luli's real body, which shocked many noble lord realm warriors of the Clouds Plains. Many people were not convinced that Luli was the state counselor of the Empire of Clouds Prowess. Luli was only at the Eternal Realm, which was so low that they felt they could kill him at any time. Now, many people were looking at Luli in a different light. At least, what Luli was doing now was impressive. The clones contained profound meanings. Those that could learn profound meanings were not average. Good. Luli locked onto a fire leopard and smashed at it with several clones. He was emboldened to find that the fire leopards could not tell which one he was. Hoi! He locked onto a fire leopard and used several clones to distract it. Then, he hacked at the fire leopard's head with the divine weapon of Dragon King. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as the fire leopard was struck down from the sky. After rolling on the ground a few times, it unexpectedly fell to the ground and stopped moving. How many people turned to Luli, wondering how powerful he could be. They were all taken aback. Fire leopards were strong in defense. Even noble Lord Realm warriors would have to work together for several rounds to kill them. How could Luli kill a fire leopard in one move? Saint Lord, all hail! Meng Ji and the others shouted. Luli was their Saint Lord. They were proud of him from the bottom of their hearts. The Clouds Plains had so many powerful warriors that they couldn't hold their heads up high. Now that Luli had amazed everyone, they felt they could hold their heads up high. Luli smiled, not too proud. He had been able to defeat noble Lord Realm warriors for a long time. The fire leopard was no different from an average noble Lord Realm warrior. It was not surprising that he could kill it easily. He used the soul-shattering secret technique and sent a powerful force directly into the head of the fire leopard. He had shattered the head of the fire leopard with a single move. Naturally, he could kill it with a single strike. Bang! He raised his divine weapon of Dragon Emperor and smashed it at a fire leopard that was charging at him. With a dull explosion, another fire leopard was sent flying. It rolled a few times on the ground and soon died. Luli was in high spirit. He flew away on his fate wheel. His clones were flying all over the place and he was everywhere. He kept waving his divine weapon of Dragon King. Every time he swung it, a fire leopard would die. His efficiency was no less than that of 5 human sovereign realm warriors. Even the human sovereign realm warriors were surprised. God of Meng had always known that Luli was a freak, but Chu Qing, Hu Lang and the others didn't think highly of Luli. If it were not for the fact that he was Lu Ling's sister, they wouldn't even look at Luli. Luli's speed of killing fire leopards was no slower than theirs. This made the few human emperors secretly pout. This pair of siblings were indeed freaks. Lu Ling stood at the entrance of the valley, looking at Luli with pride. Even though Luli had said that he could defeat any warrior of the noble Lord Realm, he couldn't help but be delighted to see her in person. Just like Luli, for her, this brother was her everything. Soon, hundreds of fire leopards were killed again. This time, some were injured but not seriously. Luli asked Yi Cha to lure hundreds more fire leopards over. Kumang and the Shadowland race were building illusions outside. Luli was afraid that Kumang and the others would be hurt, so he told Yi Cha not to lure too many fire leopards over. The bone spurs on the heads of the fire leopards were collected. Lu Ling had some transported back to the Clouds Plains and asked a master of artifact forging to see if they could make holy grade Xian artifacts. If she could make a batch of holy grade Xian artifacts, she would not sell them but distribute them to the noble Lord Realm warriors. By then, their combat abilities would be enhanced and they could conquer the small world faster. Soon, another group of fire leopards came. There were more than 1,000,000 fire leopards nearby. It would take them a long time to deal with hundreds of fire leopards alone. Luli and Lu Ling didn't have the courage to lure fire leopards over on a large scale right now. Otherwise, many warriors would die. The illusions were still under construction and the teams were still in the process of getting used to each other. Luli paid no attention to the others. He focused on fighting the fire leopard. His mind was occupied with the soul-shattering skill and how to increase the vibration wave. The soul-shattering skill was effective against noble Lord Realm warriors, but not against human sovereign realm warriors. Human sovereign realm warriors were too powerful. If he could not kill them in one move, it would be Luli who would die. If the vibration waves could be increased to dozens or hundreds, the power would be increased. Luli could even kill a human sovereign realm warrior with a sneak attack. In order to increase the vibration waves, he must learn a profound meaning and integrate it. Luli cherished the opportunity to gain inspiration during a battle. Therefore, he paid no attention to anything else and focused on fighting the fire leopard. He had cloning skills, so the fire leopards could not see through him. Therefore, he was safe. Every time he hacked with the divine weapon of Dragon King, he could kill a fire leopard easily. He seemed to be more relaxed than the 5 human sovereign realm warriors. Yi Cha left the task of luring fire leopards to Yi Hu and went to check on the fire leopards by himself. He had sensed the presence of a royal family among the fire leopards. He wanted to know if there were any beast kings and how many there were. The battle went on for an entire afternoon. At night, Lu Ling gave the order to stop. She asked several human sovereign realm warriors to protect Kumang and the others while they continued to build the formation of illusion. In one afternoon, at least 4,000 fire leopards were killed. None of the warriors died. Only more than 100 were injured. It was a remarkable achievement. Kumang and the others didn't stop. They worked through the night and finally succeeded on the second day. It was a formation of clouds and mist. An area with a radius of thousands of feet outside the valley was shrouded in clouds and mist. However, the clouds and mist could not isolate psychic power. The warriors were all at the noble Lord Realm, and they all had psychic power, so they were not affected. The fire leopards, on the other hand, were greatly affected. The formation of illusion would make the fire leopards go around in circles in a regular pattern. In other words, the fire leopards in the formation of illusion would become live target. It would be easier and safer for the warriors to kill them. Yi Hu soon attracted hundreds of fire leopards over. Just as Kumang said, all the fire leopards in the clouds and mist became blind and idiots. They could only go around in a regular pattern. The warriors were not affected at all, and they could target the fire leopards with psychic power. Good. The Shadowland race has made a great contribution again. Lu Ling nodded to herself. She began to arrange the formation. She separated the 10 teams into 100 teams with more than a dozen warriors in each team. In this way they could move more flexibly and the clearing speed would be faster. Chapter 603. With the formation built by Kumang, the speed of clearing was sped up. Yi Hu was now in charge of luring fire leopards over. Usually, by the time he lured a group over, the clearing would be completed. Warriors of the Clouds Plains were hostile to the ancient races. But now they had changed their minds. After all, they were allies and there was a human sovereign realm warrior among the ancient races. What was more, Kumang was a great help. There was a special race that was good at healing. Many wounded warriors relied on them to heal quickly. Kumang and the others began to build more formations of illusion. They all knew there was a Beast King among the fire leopards. The Beast King would not be alarmed yet, but it would be alarmed when too many fire leopards were killed. Kumang wanted to build some ancient formations to help the 5 human sovereign realm warriors kill the Beast King. This was a good chance for Kumang and the others. Lu Ling could give them whatever materials they needed. Usually, they wouldn't be so extravagant. But this time, someone was providing them with materials. Naturally, they must practice more. If they could build one of the 3 formations of destruction, Kumang would become the most powerful one among the Shadowland race in 10,000 years. Luli paid no attention to them. He focused on killing fire leopards and studying the soul-shattering skill. When he was thinking about something, he would be very serious. He wouldn't care even if the sky was falling. Subconsciously, he believed that Lu Ling would take care of everything. 8 days went by and the number of fire leopards killed had reached more than 60,000 to 70,000. Finally, there were death. 2 noble Lord Realm warriors were pierced in the heart and died instantly. There was no time to treat them. The noble Lord Realm warriors of the Clouds Plains were careless. They had been killing fire leopards for a few days and they felt it was so easy. Inevitably, they would slack off. With 2 dead and a few heavily injured, the rest of the people did not dare to be careless. On the 9th day, a warrior at the peak of the noble Lord Realm suddenly stopped in the middle of a fierce fight. He was confused. If it weren't for the fact that some warriors nearby helped him, he would have been killed in an instant. Ha ha ha! After a moment, the warrior at the peak of the noble Lord Realm burst into laughter. I understand. I finally understand. Finally, I can reach the human sovereign realm. Ha 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 ha! The warrior at the peak of the noble Lord Realm laughed hysterically. He sat on the spot with his legs crossed and began to cultivate. There were more than a dozen fire leopards next to him. Whoosh! In a flash, Hu Lang appeared in front of all the fire leopards. He turned to the dozen people behind him and said, "Don't worry about anything else, just protect him." The 6th son of the Tu family is very likely to break through to the Renhuang plain this time. Hu Lang's words shocked many people. There were many at the peak of the noble Lord Realm here, at least 600 or 700. Those warriors had been stuck at the noble Lord Realm for many years, including Brother 6 of the Tu family who was in closed-door cultivation. He had been at the noble Lord Realm for nearly 50 years. Nobody expected that there was a chance for him to make a breakthrough as soon as he arrived at the Inferno. The laws of heaven and earth here are much clearer and more distinct. I hope that you will be able to comprehend the profound meanings after fighting here for a period of time. Lu Ling's words came to everyone's mind. At first, they thought it was a lie. But now, Brother 6 of the Tu family was enlightened. Everyone's passion was ignited. The human emperor, noble Lord Realm warriors were lords and human sovereign realm warriors were kings. The difference between a feudal lord and an emperor was like heaven and earth. If they could break through to the Renhuang plain, it would be of great benefit to themselves and their families. While the group of people were envious and jealous, they became even more serious about the battle. At the same time, he was trying to comprehend the laws of this world through the battle to see if he could comprehend any profound meaning. To reach the human sovereign realm, one must comprehend profound meanings or else it would be impossible. The reason why human sovereign realm warriors were so powerful was not only because of their force field. More importantly, it was because all human sovereign realm warriors understood profound meanings. Lu Ling was not surprised that they were excited. She didn't even go back to the Clouds Plains and stayed here to take command. It was because she sensed that the Inferno was special. She still couldn't figure out why the laws of heaven and earth in the Inferno were so distinct and distinct. Brother 6 of the 2 family was under her control. She was not worried at all. Even if he could reach the earth immortal realm, he would still be her slave. Therefore, she didn't even ask about it. She just told Hu Lang to protect Brother 6 of the 2 family. Lu Li was still immersed in his own world. He had no idea what was going on outside. Yi Hu kept luring fire leopards over. Yi Cha hadn't come back yet. He must have gone to the hinterland of the fire leopard's territory. On the 13th day, another warrior had an epiphany. This time, he was at the middle stage of the Noble Lord realm. He didn't meditate on the spot. Instead, he went back to the valley. Without saying anything, he sat on the ground with his legs crossed. This time, everyone's hearts were in turmoil. In just half a month's time, there were already 2 people who were enlightened? Even if they had learned a low-level profound meaning, it was still a profound meaning. The eyes of the 5 human sovereign realm warriors glowed. The outside world didn't know how to reach the earth immortal realm. Only human sovereign realm warriors would know. The most important cultivation after the human sovereign realm was the cultivation of profound meanings. To reach the earth immortal realm, one must learn at least an 8th rank profound meaning, or else it would be impossible to reach that realm. To the outside, profound meanings were hard to learn. It would be good enough if one could learn a low-level profound meaning in one's entire life. The outside world believed that only one profound meaning could be learned, which was wrong. Only human sovereign realm warriors would understand that profound meanings could be integrated. Several low-level profound meanings could be combined into a high-level one. If you want to become stronger, you need to comprehend a stronger profound meaning. It was said that the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall was the only powerful warrior in the world who had learned a 9th rank profound meaning. For more than 1,000 years, nobody could challenge his position because nobody had learned a 9th rank profound meaning. If the 5 human sovereign realm warriors could learn profound meanings quickly, their abilities would soar. Maybe reaching the earth immortal realm wouldn't be a dream. Ha ha ha. 3 days later, Brother 6 of the 2 families suddenly opened his eyes and laughed. His body flew up and rushed in the direction of the canyon. His face was filled with ecstasy. Hu Lang and the others' eyes glowed. Hu Lang shouted, "Brother 6 of the 2 family is about to make a breakthrough?" "Soon," Brother 6 of the 2 family said. Then he flew into the valley and dashed into the base camp. Clearly, he was ready to reach the human sovereign realm. Buzzing, many people's eyes glowed. They were both envious and jealous. They worked even harder, hoping that they could be the next ones to learn profound meanings. "Someone!" Lu Ling shouted. Pointing to a warrior of the Drifting Cloud Hall, she said, "Send a message to Tu and I. Tell him to gather all the talented disciples of the Cloud's Plains and send them here. Let them cultivate in this valley." The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was rich here. It was easier to learn laws in heaven and earth. This was the best place for cultivation. There were many talented disciples of the Cloud's Plains. If they were sent here, their cultivation speed would be faster. Such a shame, Lu Ling sighed. Given a few more decades, they could train a group of Earth Immortal Realm warriors and Human Sovereign Realm warriors. By then, they wouldn't have to fear the Samsara Palace. But 10 years was too short. Even if Hu Lang and the others could make breakthroughs, it would still be hard for them to become Earth Immortal Realm warriors. Even if they did become Earth Immortal Realm warriors, could they defeat Earth Immortal Realm warriors of the 4 forces? Chapter 604. In 1 month, more than 400,000 fire leopards had been killed. With the formation of illusion of the Shadowland race, it was much faster. Only a dozen noble Lord Realm warriors died, and many were injured. But Lu Ling had prepared many elixirs. Even a broken hand could be regrown. The elimination of fire leopards was within everyone's expectation. There was nothing to be happy about. What made people excited was that 11 people had more or less learned something during the month. Brother 6 of the 2 family had reached the human sovereign realm, and one of them had learned a 6th rank profound meaning. For noble Lord Realm warriors, making progress in a small realm was not something to be happy about. With enough treasured materials and decent talent, anyone could reach the peak of the noble Lord Realm. Profound meanings were the most important. Without a powerful profound meaning, one could not reach the human sovereign realm. The standard for a powerful profound meaning was a 5th rank one. In other words, one had to learn at least a 5th rank profound meaning to reach the human sovereign realm. In 1 month, 11 had learned a profound meaning and 1 had reached the human sovereign realm. If this were to spread to the Central Plains, the entire Central Plains would be in an uproar. The 12 royal families would fight for this land at all costs. Of course, why was it so easy to learn profound meanings in the Inferno? What was the secret here? These questions were lingering in everyone's mind. Even with Lu Ling's explanation, it was not enough to solve everyone's doubts. Why were the laws in heaven and earth so clear? What was the Inferno? This was a question worth digging into. If they could find out the secret, then maybe more people could learn profound meanings. Yi Cha brought back a piece of information that made many people ponder. Yi Cha got a fruit, a common one. It could be found at the Central Plains, the Northern Desert and the Clouds Plains. It was called Firecloud fruit. It was hard for this fruit to grow. It would take 1,000 years for the fruit to grow. Even then, the fruit would only be the size of half a palm. However, the Firecloud fruit brought back by Yi Cha was the size of a human body. It must have been growing for at least 100,000 years. 100,000 years ago, in the era of humans, was the medieval times. Back then, the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race were still at the southwest of the Central Plains, and they were famous. In addition to the 2 races, many other ancient races were also powerful. Humans were the overlord of the Central Plains, but they had not completely taken over the entire Central Plains. This was just an average fruit. It was a fruit that grew in an ordinary place. If Yi Jia didn't think it looked like a fire cloud fruit, she would have picked it. If it grew in a dangerous place, in a very hidden place, in a spirit fruit or spirit tree, could it survive for so many years? 50 years? 1,000,000 years? The history of the Heaven Reverse universe was only 1,000,000 years old. How could the Inferno exist for 1,000,000 years? This was too unbelievable. All small worlds did not exist for a long time. The first small world discovered by the Central State only had a history of a few 100,000 years. Furthermore, after deducing that the Inferno prison had a history of at least 1,000,000 years, no one felt that it was strange. That was because the aura of the Inferno prison made them feel that it was extremely ancient. Even if someone said that the Inferno prison had existed for tens of millions of years, no one would feel that it was wrong. Was it because the Inferno prison had existed for a long time and was an ancient world where people could understand power Upanishads more easily? Someone raised such a question, and it received the approval of many people. However, there was no direct evidence, so no one could confirm this matter. The fire leopards continued to kill. Yi Cha had already detected that there were 2 beast kings among the fire leopard. He did not dare to draw them over. Kumang's ancient formation had not been built yet. If he drew the beast kings over now, it could cause great casualties even though there were 6 human sovereign realm warriors here. Kumang had been building formations many times with others, but they all failed. He had never succeeded in building those formations before. He was still at the stage of exploring. Lu Ling didn't blame him. Instead, she prepared enough materials for him to squander. It didn't matter even if the formation was unsuccessful. Lu Li focused on killing the fire leopards and studying the soul-shattering skill. He forgot to eat and sleep for a month. But he made no progress. God of Meng's guidance was too difficult. Not only did he have to learn Upanishads, He also had to figure out a direction to learn profound meanings. One day, Mingyu suddenly retreated in the middle of a fierce fight. This almost messed up the formation. Zi Huanyu and the others were trapped. Fortunately, a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race came to take his place and fend off the fire leopards. They didn't blame Mingyu at all. Instead, they looked at him with pleasant surprise. When they saw that Mingyu had retreated to the huge cave in the valley, they were all delighted. Mingyu must have understood something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left so suddenly without saying anything. Mingyu had learned a second-rank profound meaning, force. If he could learn another profound meaning this time, he would have two profound meanings. Bai Lung and the others were envious and jealous. Zi Huanxiao's eyes were red with envy. Zi Huanxiao had tried to reach the human sovereign realm 3 times and failed all 3 times. He had wasted a lot of mystical materials. Why? It was because the profound meaning Zi Huanxiao learned was too low, only of the 4th rank. Zi Huanxiao believed that if he could learn a 5th or 6th rank profound meaning, it would be much easier for him to reach the human sovereign realm. Luli was not in need of mystical materials. As long as Mingyu could make a breakthrough in his profound meaning, it was highly possible that he could reach the human sovereign realm in the future. Lu Ling nodded to Mingyu as he entered the valley. She had been cultivating here and keeping an eye on the overall situation. She wasn't used to fighting directly even though she was not weak. She preferred to stay in the back, taking control of the situation and devising strategies. Maybe this was a common habit of smart people. Smart people didn't like to stand under a collapsing wall. They wanted to keep themselves safe at all times. Someone, send a message to my brother. Tell him to come back and rest. Lu Ling looked at Lu Li, who was still fighting against the fire leopards in the distance. She frowned and waved to a noble Lord Realm warrior behind her. That person flew out and found Lu Li. He woke Lu Li up and told him what Lu Ling said. Lu Li thought about it and realized that he hadn't rested for a few days. He hadn't made any progress, so he turned around and flew back into the valley. When he returned to the canyon, he immediately saw Mingyu. He was startled at first, but then he asked with great joy, "Mingyu, did you comprehend something?" And Lu Li had told her about Mingyu, so she knew the relationship between Mingyu and Lu Li. She nodded and said, "I just had an epiphany. I just don't know what rank of profound meaning I have learned. It all depends on one's luck. Before one comprehends it, no one knows what grade the profound meaning is." Not bad. Lu Li nodded with satisfaction. He was happier than if he had made a breakthrough himself. Mingyu was Lu Li's most loyal subordinate. Lu Li was glad that Mingyu could become stronger. "Sis, is everything okay at the northern desert and the Clouds Plains?" Lu Li didn't ask about what was going on outside for the past month. Now that he was resting, he had to ask. Lu Ling thought about it and said with a frown, "Big families of the Central Plains don't have the courage to make trouble at the northern desert. They will send some scouts at best. The northern desert is fine. But there is some trouble at the Clouds Plains. 2 forces at the Serenity Plains seem to be itching to invade the Clouds Plains. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the Samsara Palace, who is playing tricks behind the scenes." Lu Li pulled a long face. His eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. Chapter 605. The 12 royal families had an agreement that they could not invade the other 8 plains. It was possible that the demon-slaying hall was restraining the 12 forces in secret. After all, if the entire Great Land was under the control of the 12 royal families, it would be hard for other forces to emerge. Many ambitious people would feel that they could not make a name for themselves and they would lose the motivation to fight. The fact that the 12 royal families could not openly attack the other 8 plains didn't mean that the 8 plains could not fight against each other. Once in history, there was a family that unified 3 plains. Eventually, the family expanded and entered the Central Plains, becoming one of the overlords of the Central Plains. That force was called the Pavilion of Blossoms. Therefore, it was not surprising that the forces of the Serenity Plains wanted to invade the Clouds Plains. No one could say anything. Not even the great powers of the Central Plains could interfere. Luli thought about it with a frown and asked, "What is the situation at the Serenity Plains?" Lu Ling had already sent someone to collect the information. She answered casually, "The Serenity Plains is about the same size as the Clouds Plains. 4 forces have occupied the Serenity Plains. The 4 forces have been in control of the Serenity Plains for thousands of years. They are powerful and each force has 2 or 3 human sovereign realm warriors. The 4 forces keep each other in check. If there are external enemies, they will work together to fight back. The 4 forces work in pairs so none of them can take over the other. The situation is better now. The 2 forces at the north seem to have been bought over by the Samsara Palace, and they want to invade the Clouds Plains. But I don't think the 2 forces at the south have agreed. Therefore, the 2 forces at the north are afraid that if they fail to invade the Clouds Plains and lose their territories, they are hesitating. According to the information I received, the Samsara Palace is buying over the 2 forces at the south. If the 4 forces at the Serenity Plains are all bought over, then the Serenity Plains army will invade the Clouds Plains. The 2 forces at the south have secret connections with the Tumulus of Universe. Are you close to the Yi family of the Tumulus of Universe? Otherwise, I think he would have been bought over and attacked the Clouds Plains a long time ago. Yi Luo. Luli remembered that elegant young master. He nodded and said, "Yi Luo is a nice guy. We used to be comrades and we fought against alien races together." "Don't worry about that." Lu Ling waved her hand and said, "I have sent many scouts to the Serenity Plains and they have bribed some warriors of the 4 forces. We will talk about it when the time comes. I will arrange something secretly. Perhaps the army of Yuzhou Province will not invade Yunzhou Province. Even if they invade Yunzhou Province, it's hard to say who will be the winner." Lu Ling was proud. Luli nodded to himself. He got up and went to the base camp to find a tent to rest. Entering the valley, Luli noticed that the base camp was much larger than before. There were thousands of tents here. All the young masters and young ladies were cultivating in seclusion. Scanning with his psychic power, he found many of them were disciples of the northern desert. Over the past month, Luli had only rested at the entrance of the valley for a couple of times. Not once had he entered the base camp. Naturally, he was surprised to see this. Bai Xiaoshuang. Luli saw Bai Xiaoshuang in a tent as well. Luli forced a smile. They must have known that this was a good place, so they had come in to cultivate. "Forget it, I'll go back to the Sky Dragon Snow Mountain." There was a teleportation formation, and Bai Xiaoshuang was not on the mountain. Luli was afraid that Bai Qiushue would be lonely, so he planned to go back and rest for a couple of days so that he could keep her company. Squeak, squeak from a tent, Little White flew out. Luli didn't take Little White with him when he fought. He didn't let Little White fight either, fearing that it might be hurt. Little White was sleeping in the tent. "Little White, let's go out." Luli waved to Little White and took it out of the deserted world to the Sky Dragon Snow Mountain. Luli had a noble Lord Realm Patriarch of the Mammoth race guarding the Snow Mountain. The Hag race sent over tens of thousands of warriors to surround the Snow Mountain. Luli was afraid that someone might hurt Bai Qiushue. Luli told Little White to go play by itself. He checked on Bai Qiushue and had a good sleep. When he woke up, he stayed in the ice room to keep her company. After resting for a couple of days, Luli left the area of demons to make some arrangements. He asked Yu Huashan to stay here all year round. Without his order, nobody was allowed to enter the small world. Anyone that dared to force their way in would be killed. If someone could not be killed or something was wrong, Luli should crush a jade talisman to let him know at once. Back at the deserted world, Luli brought Little White back to the inferno to hunt fire leopard. Luli wanted Little White to rest in the tent, but it was bored and Luli forbade it to fight. Little White took out the ding of Barbarian God and flew into it to refine its body with Thunderbolt. The base camp was filled with Luli and Lu Ling's people. Luli and Lu Ling didn't plan to let those in the Inferno out so soon. Therefore, Luli was not worried about Little White. Many talented disciples nearby were curious, but Luli didn't mind. He told someone to tell nobody to get close to the ding of Barbarian God, and went to hunt fire leopards by himself. Mingyu was still in cultivation, and Kumang's ancient formation was not ready yet. For 10,000 years, nobody of the Shadowland race could build such a formation. It was understandable that Kumang could not finish it in a short time. Yi Cha was in charge of luring the fire leopards away. If too many fire leopards were killed, the king of fire leopards might be alerted. Therefore, they must be more careful. Apart from Tu Hen, the sixth brother of the Tu family, the other human sovereign realm warriors didn't do anything. They would only go to help out when the situation was critical. For the rest of the time, they would sit in the illusion and study the laws in heaven and earth. It had been more than a month, but the 5 human sovereign realm warriors hadn't learned anything. They were disappointed, but they worked harder. A fight of this level could no longer stimulate their potential. Therefore, they had to sit in meditation and study the laws in heaven. Time moved on. 6 days later, Luli was woken up from his meditation by a cheer. He looked back in confusion. Many people were looking at Mingyu at the entrance of the valley. Luli's eyes glowed and he flew over. "What did you learn?" Luli shouted from the distance. Mingyu grinned. He waved his hand and poured out some Xian energy. The space in front of him was frozen. The fire leopards were all sealed in the air as if they were frozen. How Luli was shocked. This profound meaning was not of a low level. It could even seal the ferocious fire leopards. The power of space freezing must be strong. The other human sovereign realm warriors opened their eyes. Chu Qing nodded and said, "7th rank profound meaning, space sealing good. State Counselor, I suggest that he stop wasting time here and go back to closed-door cultivation. With enough mystical materials, it is very likely that he can reach the human sovereign realm. Also, space profound meaning is hard to come by. In the future, he will be very powerful." 7th rank profound meaning? Lu Li's smile grew wider. Mingyu was his most loyal subordinate. When Mingyu grew stronger, Lu Li would grow stronger. Lu Li was happy for Mingyu since they were on the same side. "Mingyu, go to the base camp." Lu Li ordered Mingyu to go back to the base camp. He had plenty of mystical materials. As long as Mingyu could keep making breakthroughs, he could provide Mingyu with endless mystical materials. "Young Master." Chapter 606. Upgrading from a beginner profound meaning to an advanced one? Mingyu went back to the base camp to cultivate while Lu Li was still thinking about it. As far as he knew, a profound meaning was a profound meaning and its power would be fixed after it was mastered. But Lu Li didn't know that profound meanings could be upgraded. This opened a new window for Lu Li. So, both the mirror image profound meaning and speed profound meaning could be upgraded? Mingyu's understanding of profound meanings was still low. Lu Li couldn't figure it out, so he went to Chu Qing and Hu Lang to ask. Buzzing. Hearing Lu Li's question, Hu Lang waved his hand. A transparent shield came out and enveloped Lu Li and the human sovereign realm warriors, cutting off any sound. Hu Lang said, "State Counselor, we will not tell you about profound meanings until you reach the human sovereign realm. If you can't reach the human sovereign realm, you will never become a real powerful warrior. It is pointless to know too much." The other human sovereign realm warriors nodded. Hu Lang continued, "State Counselor, since you have asked, I will give you a brief explanation. Profound meanings are the embodiment of laws in heaven and earth. There are 9 ranks. The higher the rank of the profound meaning, the more profound the understanding of laws in heaven and earth. Beginner profound meanings are merely the surface of laws in heaven and earth. Naturally, their powers are limited. Advanced profound meanings require a deeper understanding of laws in heaven and earth. One can borrow more power from heaven and earth, and the more powerful they are. Since they are all about understanding laws in heaven and earth, there are similarities between beginner profound meanings and advanced profound meanings. As a matter of fact, many beginner profound meanings can be upgraded to advanced profound meanings. In order to learn advanced profound meanings, one must learn beginner profound meanings first. Some advanced profound meanings can have an epiphany directly, but some must be learned by combining the beginner profound meanings. For example, the 7th rank spatial sealing profound meaning your guy learned must first learn force before he can have a chance to learn spatial sealing. For example, the armor of earth that your grandfather comprehended is a powerful grade 8 defensive ultimacy. However, he didn't comprehend this ultimacy directly. Instead, he comprehended 2 grade 6 ultimacies and then fused them. After Hu Lang's explanation, Lu Li had a basic understanding of profound meanings. He pondered for a while to digest the information. Whoosh! Lu Li was about to ask more questions when he heard a noise from the distance. Yi Cha's voice came, "Everyone, retreat to the valley. A fire leopard king is alarmed. Now, retreat." Lu Li came back to his senses. He flew up and shouted. The fire leopard king was comparable to a human sovereign realm warrior. Average noble lord realm warriors would die in a fight against it. Whoosh, whoosh, Hu Lang and the others leaped into the air and stood in a fan formation, waiting for the fire leopard king to appear. Retreat! Kamang waved his hand regretfully. The primordial divine formation hadn't been set up yet. These divine formations had been set up to deal with the fire leopard king. So many resources had been wasted, but nothing had been accomplished. The more than 1,000 warriors filed into the valley. Lu Ling asked some powerful noble lord realm warriors to stay at the entrance while the others went to the base camp. At the same time, he ordered everyone in the base camp to stop cultivating and get ready to retreat to the deserted world. Roar! An earth-shaking roar came from afar. At the other end of the plain, a gigantic fire leopard was rushing over along with a group of fire leopards. The fire leopard king was much larger than the average fire leopard. When its vertical eye opened and closed, there was a faint glow of fire. The beast's might was so horrifying that Lu Li could feel it from afar, suffocating him. Saint Lord, go back to the valley and leave the fire leopard king to us. God of Meng turned to Lu Li, who nodded and said, "1 fire leopard king and 6 of us at the human sovereign realm should be fine. State Councilor, go back." "Be careful." Lu Li nodded. He didn't force himself. He couldn't deal with a beast king that was at the human sovereign realm. He would only be a burden if he stayed. Lu Li went back to the valley and stood next to Lu Ling. He gazed at the fire leopard king through the formation at the entrance of the valley. Roar! Another deafening roar rang out as the fire leopard king shot over like a red meteor. Its speed was simply too fast. If Lu Li didn't use his psychic power, he wouldn't be able to see the fire leopard king clearly. The fire leopard king was surrounded by a red airstream, especially its 4 hooves. It was as if the fire leopard king was walking on red clouds. Every time its hooves touched the ground, the earth would shake and the stones would crack. Every time it leaped, it could fly up to more than 1,000 feet and change directions in midair. It was horrifying. Hoi! God of Meng's body glowed in a dark golden color. Dark golden scales appeared on his exposed skin. He stomped his knees on the ground, and his entire body shot out like a giant beast towards the fire leopard king. A small shield appeared in his right hand and a huge saber in his left hand. Without hesitation, he stood in front of the fire leopard king. Phew, phew! The fire leopard king breathed out a mouthful of red airstream. The energy in heaven and earth around them began to move. Luli sensed with psychic power that an unknown force was gathering toward God of Meng from all sides. God of Meng swung his saber, but he couldn't swing it down. Swish, the fire leopard king reached at God of Meng's chest in a flash. An armor appeared over God of Meng's body, but it was crushed in an instant. The bone spur on the head of the fire leopard stabbed at God of Meng's chest. The bone spur pierced through God of Meng's armor easily. Sparks came out and the spur eventually pierced into God of Meng's chest. Poof! God of Meng was smashed away together with the fire leopard king. He spat out blood in midair and his face turned pale. God of Meng was hurt by the fire leopard king in one move? Even though the bone spur didn't pierce through God of Meng's heart, it was enough for him to suffer. Hoi! The other human sovereign realm warriors made their moves. If the fire leopard king could defeat them one by one, they would have to stay here forever. Chu Qing generated dragons of fire to entangle the fire leopard king. He had learned a profound meaning related to fire. Not only could his dragons of fire burn, but they could also entangle enemies and slow them down. Once the fire leopard king was entangled by his dragons of fire, its speed would be reduced, and it would become a live target. Hoi, Ghost Claw of the Void. The sect leader of the Heavenly Lotus Society struck out a huge blue ghostly claw that descended from the sky. His goal was to restrain the fire leopard king and restrict its movements and attack. Whoosh, however, the fire leopard king was too fast. It smacked God of Meng away with its other claw. With a flash of red clouds, the fire leopard king dashed to the side and dashed toward Master of Palace of Black Moon. Master of Palace of Black Moon, Hei's neck glowed in purple and a huge shadow of a purple beast came into being. The shadow dashed toward the fire leopard king like a flash of lightning. The shadow and the real one collided, but there was no explosion. The shadow of the purple beast had entangled the fire leopard king, which slowed it down. Roar, roar, the fire leopard king howled. It breathed out streams of air in the shape of flames that surrounded it. Hei's shadow of the purple beast became weaker. His energy was running out. Okay. In a fight between powerful warriors, 1 second was enough to decide the outcome. Hei's bloodline skill had stopped the fire leopard king. Now, it was their turn to fight back. Charge, God of Meng was hurt. The violence in him was triggered. Regardless of the blood gushing out from his chest, God of Meng sprang up from the ground, swung his huge saber with black air flowing around it, and hacked at the fire leopard king. Do it. Kill this beast. Chapter 607. Bang, 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 the attacks of the 6 human sovereign realm warriors landed on the fire leopard king almost at the same time. What shocked Luli and the others was that the fire leopard king was smashed away and a pit appeared on the ground. But soon, it flew back up and it didn't seem to be harmed. God of Meng and the others were surprised. They knew the fire leopard king's defense would be strong, but they didn't expect it to be this strong. 6 human sovereign realm warriors. Even average warriors at the later stage of the human sovereign realm would have died if their defense was not strong enough. The 6 human sovereign realm warriors each had their own unique skills. Some had powerful bloodline skills, and some had powerful profound meanings. Human sovereign realm warriors' attacks were not as strong as average ones. They could crack open mountains in an instant. The fire leopard king was not harmed at all. Go on. Don't just stand there. Hu Lang, master of the Silver Wolf Mountain, shouted. Chu Qing and Hei and I made their moves at once. Master of the Lotus Society released another ghost claw. Bang, 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 their attacks caused the void to tremble. Wind howled and thunder roared. Shockwaves spread to all directions. Even at the entrance of the valley that was thousands of feet away from the battlefield, people could feel it clearly. Many noble Lord Realm warriors held their breaths, not daring to breathe. Many used psychic power to lock on the human sovereign realm warriors' attack. The average fire leopard king was too weak for the human sovereign realm warriors to use their full strength. They didn't even use bloodline skills or profound meanings. They were trying their best to deal with the Fire Leopard King. How could they miss such a rare chance? Boom, boom, boom. Luli paid special attention to Tuhen, brother 6 of the Two family. He didn't have any weapon and he only used his hands. Inside those hands, there was a golden glare and a dark cyan glow. Every time he made a move, space would tremble violently. Wherever his palm passed, the surrounding space would tremble violently, causing ripples that spread out in all directions like ripples on water. It was extremely obvious. The ripples reminded Luli of the water ripples he saw when he was learning the soul-shattering skill. His soul-shattering vibration wave was inspired by the water ripples. At this moment, the spatial shock waves caused by these giant palms inexplicably moved him. But for a moment, Luli could not connect the dots. It was a blur, faintly discernible, and he could not grasp the essence. Therefore, his eyes became misty, and he was lost in thought. The Fire Leopard King was very strong. However, there were 6 human Sovereign Realm cultivators on this side, and the attacks of 3 human Sovereign Realm cultivators had some restraining effect. No matter who struck the Fire Leopard King, its speed would decrease, and the others would be able to follow up with their attacks, sending the Fire Leopard King flying again and again. Boom! The hollow ghost claw of the Heavenly Lotus Cult's sect leader missed and smashed into the ground below, causing the ground to shake violently. A bottomless pit appeared on the ground where it was struck. Dust flew everywhere, causing the group of cultivators in the canyon to be shocked. Be careful, don't destroy the illusion at the canyon entrance, Lu Ling shouted. Kumang and the others hurried to stabilize the illusion. There were many fire leopards outside. The most important thing was the Fire Leopard King. Once the illusionary realm was broken, the Fire Leopard King would rush in. Only a few of them would be able to make it back to the deserted world alive. Vibration, vibration, vibration. Luli stood at the entrance of the valley, right next to Lu Ling. He kept murmuring. Lu Ling looked at him and saw that he seemed to have understood something. She told the others not to disturb Luli. A fight between powerful warriors could inspire warriors greatly. If Luli could learn something from this fight, it would be the best. Boom, 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 the fight was still going on. The 6 human Sovereign Realm cultivators were cooperating better. God of Meng wouldn't be hurt by the Fire Leopard King in one move anymore. Finally, the Fire Leopard King was getting hurt. There was no blood, but there were cracks on its body and it was slowing down. The 6 human Sovereign Realm cultivators were getting more and more excited. The bone spurs on the head of the Fire Leopard King could be used as a holy grade Xian artifact. The sharpness and toughness of the spurs were no different from a holy grade Xian artifact. It was horrifying enough that it could pierce through God of Meng's body. That being said, it would take time to kill the Fire Leopard King. Judging by the current progress, it would take at least an hour. The 6 human Sovereign Realm cultivators were not in a hurry. The Fire Leopard King's defense was so strong that it would be difficult for them to kill it at once. After all, the Fire Leopards down there posed no threat to them. They could slowly grind the Fire Leopard King to death. Vibrations, vibrations, vibrations. Luli was still murmuring. He was touched but he couldn't quite grasp the key point. He felt there was a path leading to the sky in front of him but it was blocked by a paper window. If he couldn't break through the paper window, he would never be able to step into that path. Time moved on. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the wounds on the Fire Leopard King were increasing and it was slowing down. At the moment, it was several times slower than before. It was only a few times faster than average Fire Leopard. Everyone was relieved. After this Fire Leopard King was killed, there would only be one left. It was only a matter of time before they killed it. As long as they could kill the 2 Fire Leopard Kings, they could collect the mystical materials nearby. The mystical materials in an area with a radius of tens of millions of miles would be a fortune. Lu Ling suddenly noticed that Lu Li had sat down with his legs crossed. She was delighted. She looked at the Fire Leopard King in a gentler way. Lu Li had been cultivating here for more than a month. He had been killing fire leopards day and night and studying. Today, with the arrival of the Fire Leopard King, he finally made some progress. Even though she didn't know what Lu Li had learned, it was good enough that he could. To Lu Ling, Lu Li was the smartest kid, a genius. She had high hopes for Lu Li. Over the past month, so many people had made breakthroughs but Lu Li hadn't. Naturally, she was disappointed. The fight was still going on outside but Lu Ling didn't care. It was only a matter of time before the Fire Leopard King was killed. All she cared about now was Lu Li. She asked a group of warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord Realm to surround Lu Li. She would kill anyone that dared to disturb Lu Li's cultivation. Roar! After the time for one incense stick to burn, the Fire Leopard King let out another shrill howl that shook heaven and earth. It was like a desperate howl before death. Lu Ling frowned and looked at Lu Li. She was relieved to see that he didn't wake up. Oh no! Beside him, Yi Jie's expression changed slightly, and he rushed out of the canyon like a ghost. He looked into the distance and shouted, "Oh no, the other Fire Leopard King is alerted, and it is coming over." Lu Ling and the others were shocked. She reacted quickly and shouted at once, "Yi Cha, try to distract that Fire Leopard King. Try to buy as much time as you can." The Fire Leopard King was covered in wounds, and it looked like it could be killed at any time. That being said, Lu Ling knew that the Fire Leopard King's defense was too strong. It would take her the time for 1 or 2 incense sticks to burn to kill it. If the other Fire Leopard King came, the situation would be out of control. Once the formation of the 6 human Sovereign Realm warriors was disrupted and the 2 Fire Leopard Kings attacked together, 1 or 2 human Sovereign Realm warriors could fall. In the end, many more would die as well. Okay. Yi Cha made up his mind. He was ready to risk his life. He flew away like a breeze and said, "Kill the Fire Leopard King as soon as possible. I think we can only buy them the time for half an incense stick to burn. P.S. It has been 4 chapters in a row. How much do I owe you? Do a calculation and I will make up for it if it is not enough." Chapter 608. Even the time for half an incense stick to burn was difficult for Yi Cha. He was as fast as a warrior at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm, but the Fire Leopard King was not slow either. More importantly, he was surrounded by fire leopards which made it difficult for him to walk. He had to risk his life to stay alive for the time for half an incense stick to burn. If he was unlucky, he could die in the time for half an incense stick to burn. "Come on!" Hu Lang yelled. They had to kill the Fire Leopard King in the time for half an incense stick to burn or they would all be in trouble. They tried their best to kill the Fire Leopard King as soon as possible. However, what frustrated them all happened. The Fire Leopard King didn't come out after it was smashed into the ground. Instead, it used its claws to escape underground. It didn't go far. It was hiding underground, ready to jump out at any time. This Fire Leopard King is very intelligent. They complained to themselves. The higher the rank of a Xian beast, the more intelligent it would be. This Fire Leopard King did not look like a Xian beast, but it was alive and had a soul. It was understandable that it knew how to seek fortune and avoid danger. This was a headache. The Fire Leopard King was too fast. They would not be able to catch up with it underground. If they gave up on the Fire Leopard King to attack another Fire Leopard King, the Fire Leopard King would come out again. Boom, boom, boom. The 6 human Sovereign Realm warriors bombarded the ground, leaving cracks all over the ground. Hu Lang even rushed underground, trying to hunt down the Fire Leopard King. Unfortunately, the Fire Leopard King was too nimble underground. Hu Lang alone was not enough to kill it. After chasing it for a while, Hu Lang could only fly up angrily. Hu Lang loosened the reins only to grasp them better. Lu Ling thought quickly. She shouted when she saw Hu Lang coming out from underground. Hu Lang and the other human sovereign realm warriors looked at each other and flew toward where Yi Cha went. She was right. As soon as they left, the ground cracked open. A red shadow flew out. The Fire Leopard King had fallen for the trap and went after the human sovereign realm warriors. Whoosh! A blue ghost claw came down from the sky and reached toward the Fire Leopard King. If the Fire Leopard King were not injured, it would have been able to dodge. However, it was slowed down and was caught by the ghost claw. The other 5 human sovereign realm warriors retreated and used their strongest moves, trying to kill the Fire Leopard King in one move. Boom! The Fire Leopard King was heavily smashed into the air, and it tumbled a distance of 3,000 meters before it lay on the ground, on the verge of death. One of its legs was broken, and it was obviously heavily injured. Whoosh! When the Fire Leopard King saw the human sovereign realm experts flying towards it, it quickly dug the ground with its 2 front paws and burrowed into the ground. It knew that if it didn't escape now, it would definitely be killed later. "I can't hold on any longer," a loud shout came from afar. It was Yi Jie's bitter cry. A red light was hot on his tail. Yi Cha could only change his route continuously. His speed was at the limit, but the Fire Leopard King was still closing the distance between them. Yi Jie's old face was covered in blood, and the armor on his back had cracked layer by layer. His badly mutilated body was clearly injured. He had only lasted for less than half an incense stick of time. Seeing the horde of fire leopards behind the Fire Leopard King, everyone knew that Yi Shi was in trouble. It would be better if Yi Cha were at the human sovereign realm or the peak of the noble lord realm. It was not easy for a warrior at the later stage of the noble lord realm to stay alive for such a long time and not be torn apart by the Fire Leopard King. This Fire Leopard King seemed to be stronger and faster. The human sovereign realm experts looked at each other. They made up their minds and pressed on. If they couldn't kill the 2 Fire Leopard Kings, they would not be able to take down this area. They would not be able to collect countless resources, and they would not be able to conquer other areas. The Inferno was a land of treasures. Just the fact that it was easier to learn profound meanings here was worth risking their lives, not to mention the mystical materials. Apart from God of Meng, none of the 6 human sovereign realm warriors were injured. God of Meng had taken some healing pellets and his healing ability was amazing. He was fine now. Therefore, there was no reason for them to retreat. They were ready to fight to the death. As for the Fire Leopard King that had fled underground, they didn't care anymore. One of its legs was broken. What else could the Fire Leopard King do? It couldn't recover in a short time. They just had to be careful not to be ambushed. "Formation!" Hu Lang shouted. The 6 of them flew forward in a fan shape. When Yi Cha passed by them, they made their moves. God of Meng went up again to buy time for the others to target the Fire Leopard King. Phew, phew, this Fire Leopard King breathed out a red stream of air as well. God of Meng was frozen in midair. The spike on the head of the Fire Leopard King stabbed at God of Meng's chest. In the past, God of Meng would have been hurt again. But this time was different. The 6 human sovereign realm warriors had been fighting together for a long time, and they had developed a tacit understanding. The moment God of Meng rushed up, they made their moves at the same time. They controlled the Fire Leopard King's speed. Hu Lang swung his axe and smashed the Fire Leopard King away. Boom! In the distance, a huge hole was blasted open in a huge mountain. Mountain rocks tumbled down, and rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. Dust filled the air, and the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Okay, they looked at each other and breathed in relief. The 6 of them worked well together. They could wear out the Fire Leopard King easily. When the 2 Fire Leopard Kings were dead, the low-level Fire Leopards down there would be nothing to worry about. They would be able to take over this area easily. Bang! The Fire Leopard King that was smashed into the mountain flew out. The 6 human sovereign realm warriors went up to it. God of Meng was to attract the attention of the Fire Leopard King and the others worked together. Whoosh! Yi-Cha dashed toward the entrance of the valley. He was seriously injured and needed treatment. Since there were fire leopards outside, he didn't dare to linger. Bang! He released his golden claws and smashed away the fire leopards at the entrance. Then, he dashed forward like a sharp sword. Wait! Right at that moment, the master of the Lotus Society suddenly shouted. He looked at the ground behind Yi-Cha and shouted, "Yi-Cha, don't go in." Yi-Cha was surprised. He didn't understand why the master of the Lotus Society said that. He was hesitating, so he didn't stop. Dragged by inertia, he dashed into the valley. Retreat! Saintess, retreat! Saint Lord, run! Several shouts were heard. Hulang, the master of the Lotus Society, and God of Meng shouted at the same time. Yi-Cha finally understood why they told him not to go in. A dark shadow was dashing toward the valley. It was the badly injured Fire Leopard King. A badly injured Fire Leopard King was still a Fire Leopard King. The Fire Leopard King's defense and offense were horrifying. Average Noble Lord Realm warriors would die in one move. Only someone as fast as Yi-Cha could have a chance to run away. If Yi-Cha had gone back to the valley before, it wouldn't have been a problem. But now, he had made a huge mistake. There was a badly injured Fire Leopard King underground. This Fire Leopard King was intelligent, and it had been trying to sense what was going on above. Yi-Cha ran all the way back, and he was at the Noble Lord realm. Naturally, the Fire Leopard King wanted to vent its anger on Yi-Cha. Yi-Cha's entry into the valley had attracted the Fire Leopard King's attention. Entering the valley from above would have been blocked by the ancient formation, and Yi-Cha would have to go around at the entrance of the valley. But the Fire Leopard King was underground, and it wasn't affected by the illusion. The Fire Leopard King had locked onto Yi-Cha and followed him all the way. It could rush into the valley from underground. Everyone, go back to the deserted world. For the first time, Lu Ling showed signs of surprise. But she didn't panic. She grabbed Lu Li's arm, took out her bead of life and flew up. While flying toward the valley, she shouted, "Tu Hong, the 30 of you must stop the Fire Leopard King even if you have to die. The rest of you, retreat to the deserted world, now." Chapter 609. Lu Ling had always been decisive when it came to killing. Compared to Lu Li, she was more cold-blooded and heartless. For the sake of the bigger picture, she could send a group of warriors to their deaths without any hesitation. Run! There were nearly 1,000 warriors in the valley. Lu Ling asked many to go back to the base camp to rest. But how could they miss a fight between a human sovereign realm warrior and a Fire Leopard King? Many people crowded in the valley to watch the fight. At the moment, everyone's psychic power was focused on the Fire Leopard King rushing over. They were frightened and they all rushed back to the base camp. Due to the large number of warriors and the narrow valley, chaos was inevitable. Formation. A patriarch at the peak of the Noble Lord realm of the two family shouted. He came with 40 Noble Lord realm warriors of the two family, patriarchs whose souls were controlled by Lu Ling. Under Lu Ling's order, they had no other choice. They all unsheathed their weapons and stood at the entrance of the valley. Their armors glowed, Xian energy was mobilized, and their bead of life appeared. They released their bloodline as soon as it was awakened. Bang! The ground cracked. Mud and stones flew around. A red shadow flew out. Tu Hong bellowed, "Attack!" The 40 warriors landed their attacks on the Fire Leopard King. What made them despair was, the mud and stones around the Fire Leopard King cracked and a huge pit appeared. But the Fire Leopard King only trembled slightly. Nothing happened to it. It fended off all the attacks. The Fire Leopard King's defense was too strong. It was like a group of kids stabbing a crocodile with wooden swords. Could they do any harm to the crocodile? Ridiculous. Whoosh! The Fire Leopard King lost one of its legs. It kicked on the ground with its other 3 legs and dashed away in a blur. In an instant, It reached Tu Hong and smashed at his head with its huge paw. Crack! Tu Hong's head cracked like a watermelon. He didn't even have the time to react before he died. The Fire Leopard King was so fast that noble Lord Realm warriors could not withstand a single blow. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The Fire Leopard King didn't stop for even a moment. Kept moving around, and there were miserable cries. One warrior after another was smashed away, and all of them died. In the time for just one breath, 10 were killed. Noble Lord Realm warriors cannot stop it. The noble Lord Realm warriors that were retreating to the base camp in the chaos were terrified. They had thought that a severely injured Fire Leopard King could not be very powerful. The 40 noble Lord Realm warriors should be able to stop the Fire Leopard King for a while, let alone kill it. Roar! From outside the valley came a loud roar. Some noble Lord Realm warriors checked with psychic power and found that the Fire Leopard King had gone mad. The frenzied attacks on the 6 Renhuangs caused the 6 Renhuangs to suffer unspeakably. It's over. Many people's hearts sank. The 2 Fire Leopard Kings were very intelligent, and the one outside knew how to cooperate with the Fire Leopard King. If any Renhuang dared to come to the rescue, the formation of the Renhuang outside would be disrupted. Once the rhythm was controlled by the Fire Leopard King, the 6 human sovereigns outside might all die. Human sovereign realm warriors could not help. The noble Lord Realm warriors in the valley could not stop the Fire Leopard King. However, the base camp was in chaos. A group of talented disciples blocked the passage and looked at the canyon curiously. None of them retreated to the deserted world. Idiot! Lu Ling flew into a rage when she checked with psychic power. She used Xian energy to amplify her voice and shouted, "Retreat to the deserted world, or you will get us all killed. Retreat now!" Lu Ling's voice was loud, resounding in the valley and the valley. Only then did the talented disciples rush into the deserted world. The passage was small, and there were more than 1,000 talented disciples. By the time they entered the deserted world, the more than 1,000 noble Lord Realm warriors would all be killed by the Fire Leopard King. Whoosh! Mingyu flew over from the base camp. Little White flew out from the Ding of Barbarian God, put away the Ding of Barbarian God, and dashed to the valley. Mingyu and Little White were alarmed by Lu Ling's voice. They wanted to help at once. Lu Li had been cultivating. He woke up at this moment as well. He looked around with a grave expression on his face. He took out the divine weapon of Dragon King and the fate wheel under his feet. He said to Lu Ling, "Sis, go back with the others. I will hold them off." Fool! Lu Ling glared at him coldly and shouted, "This is not the time to play the hero. You will only get yourself killed. Go back to the deserted world." Buzzing, Lu Li had always been obedient to Lu Ling, but this time, he didn't. He released more than 60 clones and controlled them to rush toward the Fire Leopard King. Lu Ling frowned. She didn't know which one was Lu Li's real body. She didn't say anything after a moment of hesitation. She looked at the clones flying toward the Fire Leopard King with a frown. Tu Hong and the other 40 noble Lord Realm warriors had all died. It had only been the time for a few breaths. The Fire Leopard King was ferocious. The Fire Leopard King was confused to see so many Lu Li flying over. But it didn't stop. It dashed around in the valley and smashed the clones one by one with its sharp claws. Nice! Lu Li and Lu Ling cheered to themselves. The Fire Leopard King didn't see through Lu Li's real body. Maybe the Fire Leopard King's soul was not strong enough, or it was not intelligent enough. It could also be that the Fire Leopard King was badly injured. Either way, it was good news. Swish, swish, Lu Li kept sending out clones. He controlled them to fly toward the Fire Leopard King so that the Fire Leopard King could focus on the clones and the noble Lord Realm warriors and the other talented disciples. Sis! Lu Li looked back to Lu Ling and said, "Leave now. The Fire Leopard King cannot see through my real body. It will be fine if we are not careful." Lu Ling didn't leave. She stood behind Lu Li stubbornly. Luli was Lu Ling's everything. How could she leave him here alone? Whoosh, Ming Yu and Little White rushed over. Little White found Lu Li's real body and landed on Lu Li's shoulder. Lu Li had an idea when he saw Little White. Could he put the Fire Leopard King in the Ding of Barbarian God? As long as he could put the Fire Leopard King in the Ding of Barbarian God, he could kill the Fire Leopard King with thunderbolts or release it after the fight with the 6 human Sovereign Realm warriors was over. But Lu Li rejected the idea. The Fire Leopard King was too fast. In the time for just a few breaths, the dozens of clones Lu Li sent out were all smashed. It was hard for the Ding of Barbarian God to lock onto the Fire Leopard King, let alone put it in. Ming Yu, what are you doing here? Go back. Lu Li glanced to Ming Yu, who grinned and said, Young master, let me see if the space seal can seal this beast. If I can't, I will leave right away. Okay. Lu Li nodded. He asked Ming Yu to stand on his fate wheel, and then he sent out clones again. This time, Ming Yu and Little White were replicated as well. Lu Ling and the noble Lord Realm warriors in the distance were shocked. Whoosh, Lu Li controlled the clones to fly around while he moved closer to the Fire Leopard King. When he was more than 1,000 feet away, Lu Li shouted, Ming Yu, do it! At the same time, Lu Li controlled more than a dozen clones to rush toward the Fire Leopard King to distract it. Ming Yu made a gesture with one hand. The beat of life in his abdomen spun quickly. The weather changed. Surges of unknown power gathered around him. Then a surge of horrifying chi and energy spread out and pressed toward the Fire Leopard King. Okay. Chapter 610. Roar! Before Lu Li's saber landed on the Fire Leopard King, the latter suddenly broke free from Lu Li's grip. With a flash, the Fire Leopard King reached its claws at Lu Li. Watch out! Young master, step back! Lu Ling and Ming Yu shouted at the same time. Ming Yu's eyes were filled with remorse and guilt. His space sealing was powerful, but his realm was too low. He could not seal the Fire Leopard King completely. He could only seal it for the time for less than one breath. A huge claw was getting bigger and bigger. Lu Li sensed a fatal sense of danger from the depth of his soul. Dozens of ideas flashed across his mind, but there was nothing he could do. His attack speed was too slow. He couldn't even injure the Fire Leopard King at the same time if he wanted to. Squeak, squeak, Little White's mane stood up and its eyes were filled with coldness. It screamed and flew away from Lu Li's shoulder. It went around Lu Li and pounced at the Fire Leopard King, trying to bite its neck. The Fire Leopard King showed a trace of contempt in its eyes. It didn't mind Lu Li anymore. It waved its paw casually, trying to smash Little White. Little White! Lu Li shouted anxiously, but it was too late to stop Little White. Lu Li would be an idiot if he didn't take advantage of the opportunity that Little White had created. He swung his divine weapon of Dragon King and hacked at the head of the Fire Leopard King from another direction. Bang! Bang! 2 muffled sounds came out almost at the same time. Little White was smashed into the ground by the Fire Leopard King. Lu Li's divine weapon of Dragon King landed on the head of the Fire Leopard King as well. What happened next shocked Lu Ling and Ming Yu. Lu Li's seemingly weak move had smashed the Fire Leopard King down and made it roll around in the valley. Roar, roar! After it rolled around, the Fire Leopard King staggered to its feet and roared in rage. Then it flew up again, but this time, it was slower. It seemed that its injuries were more serious. Ming Yu, seal! Lu Li checked the ground with psychic power. After he was sure that Little White was still alive, he shouted to Ming Yu. Lu Li generated more clones and dashed toward the Fire Leopard King. All right. Ming Yu released space sealing to seal up the Fire Leopard King and several clones of Lu Li. During this time, he had mastered the space sealing profound meaning well. He could seal up any space at will without affecting Lu Li's attack. Whoosh! Lu Li controlled more than a dozen clones to fly over. He deliberately lagged behind. After the Fire Leopard King struggled out of the space seal, his doppelgangers rushed forward continuously. His real body swung the divine weapon of the Dragon Emperor and struck the Fire Leopard King's head again. Boom! The Fire Leopard King was smashed into the ground again. This time, it rolled a dozen times in the canyon. It stood up shakily, its vertical eye showing signs of fear and panic. Mingyu, quickly seal it. The Fire Leopard King is trying to escape. Lu Li bellowed. Mingyu reacted quickly. Once again, he sealed off the space. Lu Li and more than a dozen clones dashed toward the Fire Leopard King from all sides. Boom! Once again, Lu Li's divine weapon of the Dragon King landed on its head. This time, the Fire Leopard King didn't fly away. Trembled on the spot and then fell to the ground. Whoosh, 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 Lu Li was still worried. He hacked at the Fire Leopard King's head 3 times before he put away the divine weapon and exhaled. Phew, phew, Lu Li was panting heavily in the valley. Mingyu and Lu Ling checked the Fire Leopard King with psychic power. When the two of them found out that the Fire Leopard King's head had turned into a pile of paste, their eyes were filled with shock. The Fire Leopard King's defense was strong. Average warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord realm, and even human Sovereign Realm warriors could not break its defense. Lu Li killed it with a few moves? In the distance, there were nearly 1,000 Noble Lord realm warriors that hadn't left to the deserted world. Almost all the talented disciples had made it out. The Noble Lord realm warriors had been watching the Fire Leopard King with psychic power. They were stunned by what they saw. It happened so fast. Lu Li and Mingyu killed the Fire Leopard King in the time for a few breaths. Many people didn't even have time to react. They only saw Lu Li and Mingyu flying over and then Lu Li hacking at the Fire Leopard King with his saber. Is the State Councilor really only at the Eternal Realm? Many people had the same thought. Tu Hong and dozens of warriors of the Noble Lord realm couldn't even hurt the Fire Leopard King. In other words, Lu Li's moves were more powerful than dozens of warriors of the Noble Lord realm? It was understandable. Lu Li's moves were quite ordinary. Even though the weapon was a holy grade Xian artifact, there was no force. They couldn't sense any profound meaning. It didn't even look like a powerful Xian skill. It was just an average move. Squeak, squeak, Little White flew out from underground and hopped onto Lu Li's shoulder. Many warriors of the Noble Lord realm checked with psychic power and were shocked. Little White was scratched by the Fire Leopard King. How come it was unharmed? Could this little beast be as strong as a beast king? Phew, phew, Lu Ling was relieved. She flew over and landed next to Lu Li. She asked in a low voice, "Have you learned a profound meaning?" "Not yet," Lu Li shook his head and said. "I haven't been in closed-door cultivation for long enough. I have only scratched the surface. If I can cultivate for 10 days or half a month, I might be able to learn a new profound meaning." "Okay." Lu Ling put on a smile. Lu Li's abilities had clearly improved. At least, his attacks were ferocious. He could even kill the Fire Leopard King. Lu Li smiled. After such a long time and a lot of effort, he had finally found a direction. He could kill the Fire Leopard King because his vibration waves of strength had reached 3 layers. Tu Hen's attack had inspired him. During the time he was in closed-door cultivation, he had successfully increased the vibration waves of his strength by 2 layers. The 3 strands of strength kept surging forward, which was why he could hurt the head and soul of the Fire Leopard King. After several attacks, the head of the Fire Leopard King was crushed. Lu Li hadn't figured out the specific profound meaning, but he had only scratched the surface. That being said, as long as he kept on studying, he would be able to learn the profound meaning. If the vibration waves of my strength can reach dozens or even hundreds, I can kill the 6 human Sovereign Realm warriors outside if I sneak up on them. Lu Li was cheered up. The enhancement of the vibration waves of his strength had improved his abilities by leaps and bounds. What was lacking now was his realm. His realm was still too low. He could see many flaws in the fight with the Fire Leopard King. When one's realm was low, one would be slow and so would one's reaction. If it weren't for Little White, he would have been killed by the Fire Leopard King. I will continue to study the vibration waves of strength and try to learn this profound meaning. After that, I will improve my realm. I must reach the Noble Lord realm first. Chapter 6:11. Lu Li had killed the Fire Leopard King. Apart from God of Meng, the other 6 human sovereign realm warriors had a whole new level of respect for Lu Li. They were relieved and focused on the other Fire Leopard King. Noble Lord realm warriors didn't have to leave the deserted world. Lu Ling put the Fire Leopard King's body into her interspatial ring and asked someone to collect the bodies of Tu Hong and the others. She planned to bring them back to the Drifting Cloud City for a proper burial. Lu Li felt uncomfortable to see so many people looking at him as if he was a monster. Things were under control, so he brought Ming Yu and Little White back to the base camp. Little White went into the Ding of Barbarian God to refine its body. Ming Yu and Lu Li both went into a tent to cultivate. Ming Yu's space sealing profound meaning needed to be studied further. Lu Li was in a hurry to learn a new profound meaning, so they didn't have to worry about the outside world anymore. Kumang and Kuelvi were embarrassed. They did not expect the Fire Leopard King to be able to pass through the illusion. If it weren't for Lu Li and Ming Yu, more than half of the more than 1,000 Noble Lord Realm warriors would have died. The two of them, along with the elders of the Shadowland tribe, hurriedly began to set up the illusory formation to cover the underground. At the same time, he prepared to set up another divine formation in the canyon, forming 2 lines of defense. This way, even if something happened, they would have time to leave the deserted world. Yi Jie was also very ashamed, but he was injured and couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. He could only let Yi Hu and the others go out to investigate while he recuperated in the base camp. There was an ancient race in the deserted world called the Shennong clan. They were skilled in medicine and could bring the dead back to life. Although it was not as powerful as Dai Feiyu's bloodline divine skill, it was not weak in terms of healing either. After the elder of the Shennong tribe healed Yi Shi's injuries recovered at a terrifying speed. Yi Shi didn't hurry to go out. Instead, she started to cultivate in seclusion. He realized that his realm was still too low. If he could reach the peak of the Noble Lord realm, he would be much faster. The battle outside was still ongoing, and it seemed like it would not end anytime soon. The Fire Leopard King was much stronger than the Fire Leopard King that had been killed. Although the 6 Renwangs were cooperating well, it would take time to kill them. The warriors of the Noble Lord realm stayed at the entrance of the valley to watch the fight. At the same time, they were discussing and exclaiming about Lu Li's power. Lu Ling was in charge of the overall situation. She could not step back. She had to sit at the entrance of the valley. Boom! 2 hours later, the Fire Leopard King was finally blasted away. Its body was cut in half at the waist by Hu Lang, and it was completely dead. All right. Cheers rang out from within the canyon. The 2 Fire Leopard Kings had been killed, and the surrounding land of millions of miles would be completely occupied. There would be endless spiritual materials waiting for them to harvest. Attack! Lu Ling waved her hand. More than 1,000 Noble Lord Realm warriors swarmed out and began to kill the fire leopards that came with the 2 Fire Leopard Kings. The 6 human Sovereign Realm warriors flew back. Hu Lang carried the dead body of the Fire Leopard King. The human Sovereign Realm warriors were exhausted. God of Meng was wounded again, so they went to the base camp to find the Shennong race to heal. Yi Hu, all of you spread out and scout the situation. Collect the spirit materials that are easy to collect first. Lu Ling sent out all the Noble Lord Realm warriors of the Cyan Phoenix race. The Fire Leopard King was killed, and the remaining fire leopards were nothing to worry about. It was time to harvest. There were 8 warriors of the Noble Lord Realm at the Cyan Phoenix race. Apart from Yi Cha, all of them were sent out. Lu Li trusted the Cyan Phoenix race completely, and so did Lu Ling. 2 days later, Kumang and the rest finished setting up the formation in the valley. Once the army went out to hunt the fire leopards, Kumang and the others went out to continue building the ancient formation. With the help of the ancient formation at the entrance of the valley, it would be easier to kill powerful beast kings next time. With the 2 fire leopard kings killed, the situation was stabilized. The noble Lord Realm warriors killed the fire leopards in an orderly manner, while the Cyan Phoenix race lured the fire leopards over. It was a good cycle. Time passed by as more fire leopards were killed. Half a month later, the number of fire leopards had dropped drastically. There were less than 10,000 left. Yi Hu and the others sent back batches of mystical materials, which piled up like a mountain. Lu Ling also sent out noble Lord Realm warriors to form teams of dozens. Even if there were only a few fire leopards, they could kill them easily. Apart from God of Meng, all the human sovereign realm warriors were sent out to ensure the safety of the teams. There were only so many noble Lord Realm warriors. The death of one noble Lord Realm warrior meant one less. Lu Ling would not allow any noble Lord Realm warrior to die for no reason. During this time, 5 more people had learned profound meanings, which made everyone overjoyed. They could hardly control themselves. Even though they had never seen many of the mystical materials and they didn't know their effects, they could tell that they were rare mystical materials. However, from the looks of it, it was obvious that it was a rare spiritual material. After appraising it, he could use it himself or sell it. There was an endless supply of mystical materials, and it was easier to learn profound meanings here. Many noble Lord Realm warriors felt they had seen a path to heaven. They wished they could stay here for decades. In a few decades, many people here would probably break through to the human sovereign realm. Hundreds of human sovereign realm warriors and several earth immortal realm warriors would be able to fight against one of the 12 royal families of the Central Plains, or even crush them. Lu Ling was busiest during this time. Not only did she have to manage the Inferno, but she also had to take care of the Northern Desert and the Clouds Plains. Fortunately, the news from the Serenity Plains was good. The 2 forces at the south of the Serenity Plains were not bought over by the Samsara Palace. For the time being, the armies of the Serenity Plains could not reach the Clouds Plains yet. Lu Li and Ming Yu were in closed-door cultivation. The talented disciples came in again, and they were cultivating hard. Lu Ling said that there would be an unlimited supply of mystical materials as long as they could keep making breakthroughs. Many mystical materials were shipped to the Clouds Plains secretly. Tu and I and the others were asked to sell them to the Central Plains and to purchase the mystical materials needed here. The Samsara Palace could not seal off the Clouds Plains completely. Big families would take risks when there were interests involved. What was more, the Central Plains was not a place where the Samsara Palace could call the shot. The Clouds Plains could trade with the tumulus of universe, and those forces were not afraid of the Samsara Palace. Everything was going well. The only thing that disappointed Lu Ling was that she sent someone to the Central Plains, to the Mystic Armor region to ask about Lu Renhuang, but there was no news. There was no news of Lu Renhuang after he came out from the ice abyss. He didn't go back to the Mystic Armor region or any big cities. It was as if he had vanished from the world. Lu Renhuang would not even see his own son and daughter. He must have something important to attend to. Lu Ling was afraid that Lu Renhuang would go to the Central Plains to find his enemies and start a massacre. Back at the Northern Desert, Lu Renhuang was ambushed and his wife was badly injured. She gave birth to Lu Li prematurely. Later, Lu Renhuang took his wife to the ice abyss. In the end, Lu Ling and Lu Li's mother passed away. Those that dared to go against Lu Renhuang must be from one of the 12 royal families. How could an average family have the guts to ambush the future family patriarch of the Lu family? The 12 royal families all had Earth Immortal Realm warriors. Lu Renhuang was all by himself, father, Don't be impulsive. Lu Ling sighed to herself. With the Inferno, she was in possession of a land of treasures. Given some time, she could train a batch of human sovereign realm warriors. It was possible for her to reach the Earth Immortal realm as well. By then, it was not impossible for her to defeat a royal family. Chapter 6:12. Nobody dared to challenge the authority of the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall. The northern desert had been peaceful recently. The Clouds Plains was fine as well. As long as the two forces at the south of the Serenity Plains were not bribed by the Samsara Palace, the two forces at the north would not dare to invade the Clouds Plains. After all, there were 6 known human sovereign realm warriors at the Clouds Plains. The Clouds Plains had more powerful warriors than the two forces. Lu Ling went back to the Clouds Plains once and came back after 2 days. Tu and I was the Emperor of the Clouds Plains. As long as he was there, the Clouds Plains would not be in chaos. Lu Ling was not worried. She sent more scouts to the Serenity Plains and bribed many spies at a high price. She wanted to be informed at once if anything happened at the Serenity Plains. The teleportation formation to the deserted world was at the Serenity Plains. If the two forces were to take action and the passageway was destroyed, they would not be able to help the Serenity Plains. The Clouds Plains was united. Scouts from the Samsara Palace and the Serenity Plains could not go in. Nor would they know that Lu Ling had entered the deserted world. Less than 10 people knew about the passageway. It was unlikely that it would be exposed. The territory of fire leopards in the Inferno had been occupied. Many mystical materials were collected. The number was staggering. There was no trace of humans in the small world. Fire leopards were beasts that could not consume mystical materials. Therefore, there were too many of them. What was more, the mystical materials here were old. Many seemed to be more than tens of thousands of years old. Some were even more than 100,000 years old. Lu Ling had people identify and classify the mystical materials. She would not use them if she was not sure of their effects. Because of this, Lu Ling transferred more warriors from the Clouds Plains. 3 months had passed. Lu Ling did not attack the territories of other beasts. She had too many things to do. She was not ready to expand yet. The resources obtained here needed to be digested, and the strength of the martial artists needed to be further improved. Many Eternal Realm warriors from the northern desert and the deserted world were mobilized, at least 1,000. Lu Ling provided them with endless mystical materials. As long as they could improve their realms, they could have more mystical materials. As a matter of fact, the Clouds Plains could mobilize more Eternal Realm warriors. However, the Serenity Plains and the Samsara Palace were eyeing the deserted world. Lu Ling dared not to make too much noise in case the deserted world was exposed. This was indeed a land of treasures. Within 3 months, more than 20 people had comprehended the profound meaning, including Hu Lang, who was at the Runhuang Plain. Chu Qing, God Meng, and the others were very excited that Hu Lang had comprehended the profound meaning. The Runhuang Plain mainly cultivated the profound meaning. Every time they had a great understanding of the profound meaning, it meant that their strength had improved greatly. Therefore, everyone was in seclusion day and night. He and I even walked around, looking for an opportunity to gain enlightenment. Lu Li and Ming Yu had been in closed-door cultivation for 3 months, and Little White had been struck by thunderbolts in the Ding of Barbarian God for 3 months. Lu Li had learned the basics of profound meaning. He knew the name of this profound meaning. It was a profound meaning related to space called space vibration. The level of this profound meaning was not high, only at the 4th grade. No matter what grade it was, as long as this ultimacy could be perfectly integrated with the soul-shattering secret technique, it was a very powerful ultimacy. For the past 3 months, apart from cultivating Xian energy, Lu Li had been studying this profound meaning. He could already condense 10 energy shockwaves, and they were still increasing. 10 layers of power, continuously passing through the external defense and into the enemy's mind. How terrifying would this power be? Not even God of Meng dared to stand still and let Lu Li hack at him. His soul pond might not explode, but it would be troublesome if he got a concussion. The soul was the last place that could go wrong. Mingyu was progressing fast. His realm was higher, but he was still far from reaching the human sovereign realm. Even if he kept on cultivating and everything went smoothly, it would take him at least a year to reach the human sovereign realm. Lu Li came out from cultivation. It was not that he could no longer study the space vibration profound meaning. It was just that he was ready to build the 6th fate wheel and reach the middle stage of the eternal realm. His realm was his weakness. If his realm was too low, his speed of attack and reaction would be slow. He could be killed by human sovereign realm warriors in an instant. Lu Li first learned about the situation and then went back to the snow mountain of dragons. Then, he went to the northern desert to learn more. He even brought Lu Feishue to the Inferno. The northern desert was stable. The only thing that disappointed Lu Li was, there was still no news about the Bodhi fruit. Madame Yen sent someone to the Central Plains. Lu Ling had been keeping an eye out, but there was no news. It was as if Lu Renhuang had vanished into thin air. Lu Ling was back and so was Lu Renhuang. Now Lu Li's only regret was by Qiuxue. There was also Jiang Qiling. She was left at the demon-slaying hall and Lu Li didn't know how she was doing. Lu Li arranged for Lu Feishue to live in a tent and he went back to his own to cultivate. The valley where the base camp was located was spacious. Now it was densely packed with tents. There were at least thousands of tents, and all of them were occupied. Lu Li asked Yi Hu to protect him while he began to build a fate wheel. It had been some time since the last time, and his foundation was solid. This time, the fate wheel was built without a hitch. It took him only 6 days. Lu Li didn't slack off after he came out from cultivation. He only rested for a day and then resumed cultivation. He had too little time. It had been almost a year since he came out from the demon-slaying hall. He had spent one of the 10 years. In 9 years, the 4 forces would arrive at the northern desert and the Clouds Plains. He didn't have time to squander. It might be that Lu Li's diligence had influenced the talented disciples and warriors in the base camp. Almost all the warriors were cultivating. Some foppish young masters were driven out of the inferno by Lu Ling. But she didn't let them go back to the Clouds Plains or the northern desert. She threw them into the Shadowland city. The inferno was too important to Lu Li and Lu Ling. She could not allow any information to leak out. The 2 exits to the deserted world were guarded heavily. Nobody was allowed to leave. Once the inferno was exposed, not only the 4 forces, but the other 8 would swarm in to fight for the treasured land. After another 2 months, a thick white fog suddenly filled the outside of the canyon, and cheers could be heard from within the white fog. Kumang and Kuelvi had spent several months and hundreds of billions worth of materials. Finally, they had built an ancient formation of destruction of the Shadowland race. This was one of the 10 ancient formations of the Shadowland race. This formation could trap human sovereign realm warriors. Several human sovereign realm warriors went in and tried to make sure that the formation was powerful. Lu Ling ordered them to attack the territory of a herd of beasts next to the inferno. In 5 months, more than 1,000 eternal realm warriors were mobilized. Some of them had reached the noble lord realm. Now, there were more than 1,700 noble lord realm warriors in the inferno. As time went on and with the accumulation of mystical materials, more would reach the noble lord realm. Lu Ling was confident. She was determined to conquer the entire inferno. Chapter 6:13. To the east of the fire leopard group, there was a group of beasts that looked like Qilins. They were covered in flames and could even spit out flames. Adult Qilin beasts could be as powerful as warriors of the noble lord realm. There were at least 1 million of them, and only one of them was at the King realm. Yi Jie named this monster Fire Qilin. The Fire Qilin mainly relied on fire and soul attacks. That's right, the Fire Qilin's eyes could shoot out a strange energy that could attack a martial artist's soul. Fortunately, their soul attacks weren't particularly strong. Otherwise, these 1,000+ people wouldn't even be enough for the Fire Qilin to devour. Lu Ling stationed the army outside the territory of the Fire Qilin and asked Kumang to build formations of illusion and destruction. Without the illusion formation and killing formation of the Heavenly Illusion Tribe, it would be a great loss to kill the Fire Qilin. It was conceivable that when tens of thousands of Fire Qilins rushed over and breathed out flames, the battlefield would become a sea of fire. Those noble Lord Realm warriors would have nowhere to hide. The casualties would be heavy. Kumang and the others brought many materials with them. Under Lu Ling's guidance, they built many formations of illusion in a mountain with complicated terrain. The mountain Lu Ling chose was a good one. The terrain was strange, and there were many ravines and ravines. Some formations of illusion had made the terrain more complicated. More than 1,000 people could hide on the countless mountain peaks, while the Fire Qilin would be misled by the illusory array and run in circles below. More than a dozen formations of illusion were built. Still, Lu Ling didn't give the order to start the battle. Instead, she waited for Kumang and the others to build formations of destruction. This killing matrix could even trap a Renhuang to death. As long as it was successfully set up, there would be no pressure at all when dealing with the Fire Qilin. Kumang and the others successfully set up the primordial killing formation at the entrance of the canyon. This time they were familiar with the process, and it took them 5 days to set it up in one go. Everything was fine. Yi Jie and the others moved, drawing many Fire Qilins over. After these Fire Qilins entered the various illusory arrays, they all became blind and deaf. They could only wander around in the ravines, completely unable to discover the martial artists hiding in the mountains and peak. The slaughter became very easy. In the beginning, a few human sovereigns led the team and easily slaughtered groups of fire unicorns. Gradually, the noble Lord Realm warriors formed teams and took turns to kill the Fire Qilins as if they were harvesting wheat. Killing the Fire Qilin was easier than killing the fire leopard, but it was very torturous. This was because the Fire Qilin could spit fire, and its flames were very powerful. If one wasn't careful, one's entire body would be burned. The Shenong tribe became very important in this battle. Wounded soldiers were constantly sent to the new base camp, and the Shenong tribe was responsible for treating them. Without the Shenong race, the more than 1,000 noble Lord Realm warriors would become wounded and they would have to lie in the base camp, unable to fight. The killing formation was activated, luring in several hundred Fire Qilins. They were actually easily trapped to death by the killing formation. The hundreds of Fire Qilins killed each other, and in just a few hours they were all dead. Once again, the Shadowland race was recognized by Lu Ling and the human sovereign realm warriors. Kumang, Kuelvi, and the others were grinning from ear to ear. Originally, the Tianhuan clan was at the bottom of the deserted world. They could only stick to their headquarters and were often bullied by other clans. Now that he had followed Lu Li, he didn't expect to shine so brightly. Everything was on track. Lu Ling handed over the command of the scene to Hu Lang and went back to the valley where Lu Li was to cultivate. Lu Ling was a smart girl. She knew very well that the weak could defeat the strong with tactics and defeat the many with fewer. However, when one's strength reached a certain level, one could easily defeat 10 people with brute force. In the face of absolute power, all schemes were useless. Being of Fire Phoenix birth, her cultivation speed was fast. It would be a pity not to take advantage of such a good opportunity. Now, everything was stable and Lu Ling didn't have to worry about anything. Naturally, she began to cultivate. Everyone at the base camp had become cultivation maniac. They would only fall asleep when they were exhausted. Usually, they would take energy pellets and not eat or drink. They would cultivate all the time. With endless supply of mystical materials, more and more people were making breakthroughs. It was not surprising that some geniuses could reach the Fate Wheel realm from the Soul Pond realm in a month. Many talented disciples from the deserted world and the northern desert were sent here. There was a kid of the Bai family who was only 13 years old, but he was already at the middle stage of the Fate Wheel realm. Bai Xiaoshuang had built the fifth Fate Wheel and Zilian had reached the middle stage of the Eternal Realm. Everyone's cultivation speed was improving like a rocket. If nothing happened outside and they could cultivate like this, in less than 10 years, there would be many human sovereign realm warriors. Unfortunately, things didn't always go according to plan. 5 months later, a noble Lord Realm warrior of the two family came with the latest news from the Clouds Plains. The Serenity Plains was ready to make a move. The two forces at the south might have been bought over, and they could invade the Clouds Plains at any time. Lu Ling stopped cultivation at once. She asked about the Inferno and learned that the Fire Qilins were almost wiped out. A king of Fire Qilin was trapped in a formation of destruction and was killed by several human sovereign realm warriors. There were only about 300,000 Fire Qilins left. It was only a matter of time before they were all wiped out. Lu Ling decided to leave Hulang, Tu Hen and God of Meng and go back to the Clouds Plains with the other 3 human sovereign realm warriors. Lu Ling didn't bid farewell to Lu Li since he was still cultivating. He could go to the Clouds Plains quickly, and she could come back soon as well. She just told Yi Cha to tell Lu Li that she would go back to the Clouds Plains, and that Hu Lang would be in charge. Lu Li stopped cultivation half a month later. He didn't pay much attention when he learned that Lu Ling was going back to the Clouds Plains. He thought that she was just going back to have a look because she didn't tell Yi Cha what was going on at the Clouds Plains. Lu Li asked about the situation in the Inferno and the northern desert before he went back to cultivation. It had been more than half a year since the last time he made a Fate Wheel. Lu Li had made 2 Fate Wheels, and he only needed 1 more to make his bead of life and reach the Noble Lord Realm. Therefore, Lu Li had been working hard during this time. He wanted to reach the Noble Lord Realm as soon as possible so that his comprehensive abilities could be improved. For average warriors, it was difficult to reach the Noble Lord Realm. But for disciples of superfamilies, as long as they were talented, reaching the Noble Lord Realm was a piece of cake. Ji Mengtian, Lu Xuan, Lu Anai and Yang Xian could reach the Noble Lord Realm easily. Lu Li had endless resources at his disposal. He was no different from disciples of major families. He was the son of Lu Renhuang, a disciple of the immediate Lu family. Naturally, he was talented. It was not surprising that he could improve so fast when he cultivated hard. Lu Ling had reached the middle stage of the Noble Lord Realm in 2 years. Another 2 months passed. Lu Li was ready to make the last Fate Wheel when Hu Lang, Tu Hen and God of Meng suddenly came to the base camp. They had received Lu Ling's order to go back to the Clouds Plains. God of Meng was Lu Li's man, so he had to ask Lu Li. Also, Hu Lang and the others were gone. Lu Li had to stay here to take command. What is going on? Lu Li opened his eyes, saw Hu Lang and the other 2, and asked in a hurry. Lu Li didn't come back for 2 months. He felt something was wrong at the Clouds Plains, but he was busy making the last Fate Wheel, so he didn't ask. Serenity Plains is invading. Chapter 6:14. The 2 forces at the south of the Serenity Plains had been on good terms with the tumulus of universe. They were not bribed by the Samsara Palace because Yi Luo and Lu Li were friends. However, when a young lady from the Ji family and a young master from the Hades Society came, the situation changed. Lu Li thought of a beautiful lady. Judging by the time, Ji Mengtian should still be in the Blood Realm. Who dared to let her out in advance when the Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall gave the order to exile her? Lu Li asked, Ji Mengtian has other powerful young ladies? Hu Lang nodded and said, "Yes, Ji Mingtian's elder sister, Ji Mengyao. She is a well-known social butterfly of the Ji family. She is more dissolute than Ji Mengtian, and she specializes in seduction skills. According to the information, Ji Mengyao is in a relationship with the future family patriarchs of the two forces at the south. She has charmed the two young family patriarchs. I think the two young family patriarchs must have facilitated the four forces to work together to invade the Clouds Plains." "How is that possible?" Lu Li asked in confusion. "How can the two young family patriarchs influence the decision of the family? Are the patriarchs of the two forces useless?" Every major force had a hall of patriarchs. Important decisions could not be made easily. Not even the family patriarchs had the right to make decisions. Most of the patriarchs had to agree. Ji Mengyao had charmed the two young family patriarchs. Those patriarchs were not idiot. Why would they change the family strategy because of the two young family patriarchs? Hu Lang could not figure it out either. He said, "Maybe there are other reasons. I think the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society have something on them to blackmail them." Lu Li thought for a while, but could not come to a conclusion. He asked, "What did my sister say?" Hu Lang said with respect, "Sainta said that you should stay here and cultivate. The armies of the Clouds Plains are nothing to be afraid of. She can wipe them out easily. She told you to stay in the Inferno and leave the Clouds Plains to us. Then go to the Clouds Plains. God of Meng, you go with me. Listen to my sister." Lu Li waved his hand. He was about to break through to the last fate wheel. A few more days didn't matter. Including God of Meng, the Clouds Plains had 8 human sovereign realm warriors, which was not much weaker than the Serenity Plains. Even if the Clouds Plains could not defeat the human sovereign realm, they should be able to hold out for a month. Hu Lang left with God of Meng, 2 hen and hundreds of noble Lord Realm warriors. Lu Li asked Yi Cha to go with them as well. When they left, Lu Li checked Mingyu with psychic power. He could tell that Mingyu had reached the peak of the noble Lord Realm. But it seemed that Mingyu still needed some time to reach the human sovereign realm. The situation in the Inferno prison was very stable. The territory of the Fire Qilin had been completely conquered. Most of the mystical materials had been collected and sent to Lu Feishu. Since Lu Ling was not here, the mystical materials were under Lu Feishu's control. Now that Hu Lang was gone as well, Lu Li told everyone to follow Lu Feishu's orders. Lu Li told the warriors in the Inferno to stop expanding after they collected all the mystical materials from the Fire Qilin. They were to go back to the base camp and wait until the war at the Clouds Plains was over. He immediately went into seclusion to form the last fate wheel and asked Yi Hu to protect him. Took him half a month to form the last fate wheel. Buzz! The 9-layered fate wheel appeared. It didn't have 9 colors, just a silver glare. Lu Li hopped on it and flew out of the valley. Whoosh! His fate wheel spun and reached its maximum speed. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from everyone's sight at a frightening speed. Mingyu, Yi Hu and Lu Feishu stood at the entrance of the valley, staring at where Lu Li had disappeared to. Lu Feishu's jaw dropped. After a while, she asked in surprise, "Lu Li is faster than Hu Lang, isn't he?" "It will definitely be much faster." Yi Hu said with certainty, "Saint Lord, you were already faster than warriors at the initial stage of the human sovereign realm. Hu Lang has reached the middle stage of the human sovereign realm, but speed is not his forte. Saint Lord, you must be faster than that." "Really?" Lu Feishu covered her mouth. Mingyu was mesmerized by her astonishment. Lu Feishu was born in a big family. She had an extraordinary temperament and her looks were top-notch. Over the years, the scar on her heart had healed. She had regained the elegance of a young girl. It was not surprising that she could attract men. Lu Feishu patted her chest and asked in confusion, "Has Lu Li learned a high-level profound meaning related to speed? Otherwise, how can a warrior at the peak of the eternal realm be faster than a warrior at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm?" I don't know, Yi Hu could not figure it out. Lu did learn a profound meaning of speed, but it was not a high-level profound meaning. Lu was probably the only one who knew why he was so fast. Whoosh, Lu flew back from the distance. In a blink, he was in front of Lu Feishue and the others. Lu was satisfied with the improvement of his realm. His speed and reaction had improved. He turned to Mingyu and said, Mingyu, I need to go to the Clouds Plains. Stay here and help my aunt. Mingyu frowned and asked, Do you want me to go to the Clouds Plains with you? Lu shook his head and said, I think you should reach the human sovereign realm first. It is pointless for you to go now. You cannot defeat human sovereign realm warriors, but you don't have to kill noble lord realm warriors. Mingyu thought it made sense, so he said nothing more. Lu said to Lu Feishue, Before we come back, nobody can leave the base camp or the inferno. We will talk about it when we come back. Be careful. Lu's nephew was much more powerful than her. Lu Feishue could not control him. She just told him with concern. Yi Hu, let's go. Lu waved his hand and left with Yi Hu. He woke up Little White that was still refining its body in the ding of Barbarian God. He put away the ding of Barbarian God and bid farewell to Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian before he left the Inferno. He went back to the Snow Mountain of Dragons and stayed with Bai Qiushue for half a day in the ice room. Then, he teleported to the Serenity Plains with Yi Hu. The passageway was well hidden. The two noble Lord Realm warriors of the Palace of Sun occupying the passageway didn't attract the attention of the forces of the Serenity Plains. As far as the forces of the Serenity Plains were concerned, the Palace of Sun and the Drifting Cloud Hall were enemies, and the enemy of an enemy was a friend. How is the Clouds Plains? There was a noble Lord Realm warrior at the Palace of Sunday. Lu asked about the Clouds Plains. The noble Lord Realm warrior's soul was controlled by Lu Ling. He answered with respect, It is not good. The Serenity Plains army has reached the hinterland of the Clouds Plains. They have taken over half of the territory and are now expanding toward the Drifting Cloud City. That's serious? Yi Hu looked awful. Lu knew that Lu Ling was smart, so he was not worried. He just asked, How many times has our human sovereign realm warrior made a move? Once. The noble Lord Realm warrior of the Palace of Sun answered, but when the army reached the Clouds Plains, Emperor Tu and I took action with 4 human sovereign realm warriors. But after 2 of them were badly injured by 9 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains, our human sovereign realm warrior never took action again. Okay, I see. Lu put his mind at ease. From the brief introduction, Lu had seen traces of Lu Ling's plan. Clearly, she was pretending to be weak and luring the enemy deeper into their territory. It was easy for the Serenity Plains army to come in, but it would be hard for them to go back. Chapter 6:15. The 4 forces of the Serenity Plains had mobilized 10 million warriors. 9 of them were at the human sovereign realm, and more than 5,000 were at the noble lord realm. Powerful warriors of the 4 forces had come out in full force. All the human sovereign realm warriors were on the move. Clearly, they were not here for fun. They were here to uproot Lu Ling's forces and occupy the fertile land of the Clouds Plains. Lu and Yi Hu teleported to the Drifting Cloud City through the teleportation formation. The atmosphere in the city was heavy. Many of the citizens in the city had migrated back, and many had probably left during this period of time. The city seemed a little empty. Lu used psychic power to find Lu Ling. She was playing the Chinese zither in the back hall by herself. She closed her eyes and shook her head. She seemed to be enjoying herself. Ha ha! Lu was more relieved to see Lu Ling like this. He walked to the back hall with Yi Hu. Lu Ling had just finished when Lu walked over. She opened her eyes, looked at him and said with a smile, You have reached the peak of the eternal realm? It will take you at least half a year to build your bead of life, right? Lu nodded and said, I have the rising dragon grass, but I need to stabilize my realm or I will fail. I will need at least 4 to 5 months. Sis, have you made your plan? Lu Ling nodded and poured Lu Li a cup of tea. She looked at Yi Hu, who left on his own. Lu Ling then said, when the Serenity Plains army was sent out, I had already made my plan. If everything goes well, the Serenity Plains will be able to take over the Serenity Plains. Lu Li was surprised. He had thought that it would be good enough if they could defeat the Serenity Plains army. He didn't expect that Lu Ling was planning to take over the entire Serenity Plains. He didn't doubt Lu Ling's abilities. But he said with concern, Cloud's Plains and the Serenity Plains are big. If we take them both, will the Central Plains retaliate? Cloud's Plains and the Serenity Plains were big. Taking over the two would create a powerful force which would impact the 12 royal families of the Central Plains. Back in the days, the Pavilion of Blossoms had taken over 3 continents and developed quickly. Eventually, it dominated the Central Plains. At least for the next 8 or 9 years. Lu Ling smiled and said, in 8 or 9 years, the Samsara Palace and the other 3 forces will attack us. During this time, the 12 royal families will not bully us openly. If so, why should we be afraid of them? Why don't we expand? The stronger we are, the greater our influence will be, and the less the 4 major powers will dare to act recklessly. We need to take advantage of these 8 or 9 years to quickly develop our forces so that we can contend with the 4 major forces in the future. Lu Li thought about it and agreed. He asked, when do we pull in the net? With my current speed, even those in the middle stage of the human sovereign realm can't catch up with me. If I can launch a sneak attack, those in the early stage of the human sovereign realm can kill me with 1 strike. When the battle starts, I will move with the main force. So fast. Lu Ling was taken aback. She thought for a while and said, there is still half a month before the net is drawn in. Cultivate now. I will arrange for you to fight later. Lu Ling was afraid that something might happen to Lu Li. That being said, if a warrior didn't fight, he would never have the chance to become a powerful warrior. Lu Ling was decisive in killing. She was cruel to her enemies and to herself as well. When she was still a little girl, she was able to cut her own thigh to scare off Di Hu and the others. Now that they had decided to let Lu Li grow through battles, they wouldn't have to worry too much. Lu Li's participation in the battles had become a foregone conclusion. Knowing that he could fight, Lu Li went to cultivate without worrying about anything else. He had complete trust in Lu Ling. There shouldn't be any suspense in this fight. After 10 days of closed-door cultivation, Lu Li was woken up by someone sent by Lu Ling. Lu Ling didn't see him. She just told him to go with Hu Lang, and Hu Lang would tell him all the plans. Serenity Plains? When Lu Li saw Hu Lang bringing him and 100 warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord realm to a castle, about to teleport to the cave at the entrance to the deserted world, he was surprised. But soon, he understood. Drastic measures. The Serenity Plains was the base camp of the 4 forces. Human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains had come to the Clouds Plains with the army. The Clouds Plains was practically defenseless. Hu Lang and Lu Li could sweep across the entire Serenity Plains with 100 Noble Lord realm warriors. When the rear was in chaos, the morale of the armies here would be shaken. The Serenity Plains would send back powerful warriors. By then, Lu Ling could set up ambushes and take them down one by one. The Serenity Plains had taken over half of the territory of the Clouds Plains. Inevitably, the battlefront of the Serenity Plains would be stretched and the armies would be dispersed. Once the Serenity Plains was in chaos, Lu Ling's counterattack would begin. The battlefront was long and the Clouds Plains was the home field. The Clouds Plains could launch sneak attacks everywhere. The Serenity Plains would be badly battered and the Serenity Plains would lose their bearings. Let's go! Lu Li was more confident. Lu Ling was good at planning, and she had studied the chessboard of the Clouds Plains thoroughly. If the Serenity Plains, a dragon, entered the Clouds Plains recklessly, it would only end up being nibbled away one by one. Let's go to the north first. After everyone was teleported over, Hulang immediately led everyone and flew towards the north at high speed. The two forces at the north of the Serenity Plains were both running dogs of the Samsara Palace. When the lairs of the two forces were attacked, the news would be sent to the front line. The two forces at the south didn't want to attack the Clouds Plains. Once they heard the news, their morale would be shaken and they would retreat for fear that their lairs would be attacked. The teleportation formation was at the north of the Serenity Plains, only tens of millions of miles away from the main city of the Yama Palace. Hulang and the others traveled day and night. They didn't enter any cities. They picked the most remote routes and killed all the scouts on the way. In just 2 days, Hulang and Luli arrived at the Yama city. The city was peaceful. Not even the shield was activated. They didn't expect that Luli and the others would sneak in. At the moment, the south of the Clouds Plains was under attack. Armies and scouts of the Serenity Plains were everywhere. Theoretically speaking, it would be difficult for warriors of the Clouds Plains to sneak into the Serenity Plains. Little did they know that over a year ago, a teleportation formation was built at the Serenity Plains that was directly connected to the drifting cloud city, Hoi. Hulang generated a huge hand and smashed it at the city. Dozens of castles in the city were smashed and thousands of people were killed. Kill them. Apart from civilians, kill all the warriors. With the character Wolf in his name, Hulang had always been a violent person. With a roar, he took the lead and dashed toward the main hall of the Yama Palace. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the city was in chaos. Many warriors flew up, but most of the powerful ones had gone to the Serenity Plains. There were only hundreds of noble Lord Realm warriors, and none of them were at the human sovereign realm. Luli glanced over with psychic power. He had no desire to take action. The city had a large population, at least 10 million civilians and hundreds of thousands of warriors. But there was no human sovereign realm warrior. Hulang was at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm. He was like a hungry wolf leading 100 wolf pups into a flock of sheep. The result was predictable: boom, boom, boom. The 100 warriors of the noble Lord Realm shot out beams of Xian energy and killed many civilians by mistake. Luli felt sorry for them and said, "Be careful. Civilians are innocent. Do not kill civilians." Yes. Luli was the state counselor of the Empire of Cloud's Prowess, the younger brother of Lu Ling. He had a distinguished status. The 100 warriors at the peak of the noble Lord Realm didn't dare to disobey Luli. Charge. Chapter 6:16. A tiger with a pack of hungry wolves dashed into a flock of sheep. There might be some shepherd dogs in the flock, but would the outcome be any different? Hulang was unstoppable. He focused on killing the noble Lord Realm warriors. He was fast and he had force field. He dashed into the crowd of noble Lord Realm warriors, activated the Force City, and killed the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Yama Palace one by one. Luli released so many clones that he was even faster than Hulang. It felt like the sky above the city was filled with his shadows, like ghosts. Many civilians were scared to death. Luli didn't use any complicated moves. He just waved his divine weapon of Dragon King casually. Every move would land on the head of a noble Lord Realm warrior of the Yama Palace. With a muffled sound, the noble Lord Realm warrior bled from his eyes, ears, nose and mouth. He fell from the sky, stirring up a cloud of dust. Hulang and Luli focused on the noble Lord Realm warriors, while Hulang and the 100 warriors at the peak of the noble Lord Realm would target the regular warriors. This was a plan that had been made. For 100 noble Lord Realm warriors to kill Eternal Realm, Fate Wheel Realm and Soul Pond Realm warriors would be as easy as wolves killing lambs. Therefore, even though there were only 102 warriors on Hu Lang's side and hundreds of thousands of warriors of the Yama Palace, it was a one-sided slaughter. In the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the hundreds of noble Lord Realm warriors of the Yama Palace were all injured or killed. The more than a dozen noble Lord Realm warriors that were seriously injured were purposely spared by Hu Lang so that he could send a message to the army at the Clouds Plains. Tens of thousands of the army of 200,000 or 300,000 had been slaughtered by the 100 noble Lord Realm warriors. They had no power to fight back. Finally, the warriors of the Yama Palace were scared. They began to flee to all directions. Hu Lang and Lu Li knew that they could not kill all of them. After all, there were too many of them. They were not here for a massacre. They were here to attack the base of the Yama Palace, to instill fear in the warriors of the Yama Palace and lower their morale. Boom, boom, boom. Hu Lang attacked with Xian energy. Many castles in the main hall of the Yama Palace were leveled to the ground. Some luxurious castles and mansions in the city were destroyed as well, turning the Yama city into ruins. As for the teleportation formations in the city, they were destroyed as soon as Hu Lang and the others arrived to prevent powerful warriors from other forces from sending reinforcements. Whoosh! After killing for a while more, when most of the cultivators had fled, leaving behind only the terrified and trembling commoners, Hu Lang shouted, "Let's go! Let's go to Crystal City in the south." 102 people came, 98 left, and 7 or 8 were injured. 3 of them had died because they had underestimated the enemy and were dragged down by a few Yama Palace martial artists to perish together. Hu Lang and Lu Li were comparable to an army of thousands. It was normal for them to achieve such result. Everyone whizzed towards the south. On the way, they encountered soldiers who tried to escape and killed them all. 2 hours later, they entered the mountains. Lu Li looked at Hu Lang and asked, "General, are we really going to the Crystal City?" Crystal City was the headquarters of Crystal Palace, a major force in the south of Yuzhou province. It would take at least 10 days to reach Crystal City from here. That was why Lu Li was confused. There was a big force in the north, the Black Tortoise Hall, which was only 2 or 3 days away. Why didn't they go to the Black Tortoise Hall first? Creating a diversion? Of course we're going to the Martial Hall. Hu Lang grinned. Lu Li finally understood. But he didn't think it was necessary since there were no human sovereign realm warriors at the Serenity Plains. It would take some time for the human sovereign realm warriors at the Clouds Plains to come back. Even if they wanted to, Lu Ling wouldn't let them go so easily. How about we just kill our way into the city and take the teleportation formation? Lu Li suggested. They wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Even if they took the teleportation formation, who could hurt them without a human sovereign realm warrior? Forget it. Hu Lang turned down the suggestion and explained, "Killing is secondary. Our main purpose is to destabilize the morale of the Serenity Plains. Therefore, it is better that we don't kill. Otherwise, if we kill all of them, the Serenity Plains will throw caution to the wind and fight to the death with us." All right. This time, Lu Ling asked Lu Li to go with Hu Lang. Since Hu Lang insisted, Lu Li couldn't say anything else. They traveled day and night with the army and sneaked toward the Black Tortoise City secretly. They went through the wild mountains and killed any scouts they couldn't avoid. Since they were fast enough, they arrived at the Black Tortoise City in just 2.5 days. This time, Hu Lang didn't give the order to attack immediately. Instead, he told them to rest for a couple of hours. Even though they were all powerful, they were tired after several days and nights of traveling. Lu Ling's mission for Hu Lang was to turn the Serenity Plains upside down. She didn't specify what they had to do or how many people they had to kill. They ate some food and rested for 8 to 10 hours. Hu Lang waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Let's break into the Black Tortoise City." They flew up and dashed toward the Black Tortoise City. They were close to the city anyways and they didn't have to worry about being exposed. From the distance, they saw a huge city with a blue shield glowing over it. The other big cities were informed of the massacre at the Yama city. On the second day, all the city shields were activated. Even though they were not strong enough, they could stop the invaders for a while. Hulang and Luli frowned when they saw the shield. There must be a lot of energy in the shield. It would take them at least a couple of hours to crack it. Would there be any changes in the next 2 to 4 hours? Would they be ambushed by the human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains? No one could be sure of that. Hulang thought about it. In the end, he made up his mind and said, "State Counselor, you hide nearby with some people. I will go and breach the city by myself. Even if something goes wrong, I can easily escape with my strength." Luli thought about it and said, "How about I go with you? You know how fast I am." "No," Hulang said with determination, "I will go alone and you can look after me secretly. I can breach the city by myself." Luli was Lu Ling's brother. Even though she didn't say anything, Hulang's entire family would be put to death if something happened to Luli. Whoosh, with that said, Hulang flew away. Luli had no choice but to go down with the others. They dug a cave in a mountain and looked at the Black Tortoise City from the distance. Boom, 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 soon, loud explosions rang out from the other side. Hulang continuously sent out giant palm imprints towards the city barrier array. The city was in chaos. Countless cultivators flew up and stood on the city walls, staring at Hulang in the sky. "Go and have a look." Luli waved his hand. A warrior of the Silver Wolf Mountain sneaked over. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he came back and reported, "The Black Tortoise City is the same as the Yama City. There are not many powerful warriors. There are only several hundreds of noble Lord Realm warriors and about 200,000 warriors. Let's be careful." Luli sent out more than a dozen warriors to scout around the Black Tortoise City. If they found anything, they could report to Hulang and evacuate. Boom, 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 above the huge city in the distance, a huge palm print continuously slammed down, and the huge blue light barrier flickered incessantly, creating a soul-stirring scene. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.